Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fin Factor. I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
This is episode number 286. This is a recorded show. It's very different from what we're used to doing the live shows. So the way we usually kick these off is to let you know what we're going to be talking about. So right here, we're just going to say that we're going to do a season recap as the season has ended for the San Jose Sharks, unfortunately. So we'll be doing some comparisons from this year to last year, and also maybe some predictions that we had at the beginning of the year, and seeing how hilariously wrong we were on some of this.
Yeah, we also have some clips from the locker cleanouts. There were 14 interviews. We're not going to go through every single one, but we did pick and choose some common themes that we're going to show at the end of the episode.
Very good. You ready to start the show?
Ready.
Good. Well, in the famous words of Tomas Hertl,
you sound like Chewbacca.
So yeah, the San Jose Sharks didn't have the year that we were all sort of hoping that they would have. I think a lot of people didn't have them even close to the playoff conversation. I know that was something that I had talked about a lot, was this is where I think the team will be. And we will talk about that. But the very first thing we want to do, and we're going to do it even though we're not live, we want to thank all of our members. So Aaron, can we thank all of our members for the year that they've supported us?
Yes, thank you very much to the members. Arnold De Leon, Brycar75, Christopher Garrick, Debbie Smith, Devereaux Boxton, Frank Rojas, Crichton09, Lori Scholl, Michael Flores, Navy 47, Nick W, Robot Bay 89, Ryan Monanton, Saint Taco 707, Taylor Kearney, Tyler McElroy, Tyler Myers, Tyler Payton, Xavier Macy. Thank you all for becoming members. If you would like to become a member, you can click on join on our channel page, and it will be $2.99 a month to help us run the show, which is fantastic, and we appreciate you all. And you will also get your name read before every single episode.
Other ways you can also support the show, by the way, you can still do, we're not doing it live, so there's no super chat, I believe, but there is a super thanks function, which is sort of similar. So that's one way you can support the show. You can also go to Venmo at the Fin Factor, and you can support us there. And anything you put in there, we'll go ahead and read live in our next show, whenever that happens to be. As well as thefinfactor.com. We have things there, hats, shirts, hoodies, all kinds of different merchandise. If you would like to support the show, but get something back in return, that's the best way to do it. Aaron, let's go ahead and start talking about the season recap. Like right off the hop here, we've got a whole bunch of graphics. This is going to be a very graphic and media heavy episode, I believe. So go ahead. Let's just jump into it.
Sure. I mean, just to the season, the Sharks ended up with 39 wins, 35 losses, 8 overtime losses for 86 points. They had a minus 41 goal differential, and they went from almost the playoffs to a 5% chance of the first overall pick in the draft. So kind of not a terrible consolation prize for missing the playoffs, and that's due to the Pacific Division being so terrible this year that the Sharks were in it up until the 80th game, I believe, is when they finally got eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate something that I think we said in the last show was just how close it actually was. You take a look at the points, and the Sharks only had 86, and then LA Kings had 90, right? LA Kings got the last wild card spot. So we were only 4 points away, but there were a few teams that also had 86, and they had us from some tiebreaker, and we bumped a little bit farther down. To put it in perspective, if at any point in the season there was a game where the Sharks had 0 points, just one, and they got 2 points instead. And if the LA Kings had won a game, 2 points, and lost 0 points. At any point in the season, right? 81 games could have gone the exact same way for both teams. But if one game for each team went differently, we'd be in playoffs right now. That is how close this team of mostly 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids was to being a playoff team.
I'm laughing because the LA Kings only won 22 games in regulation.
Yes.
In the season they made playoffs, which I think is a joke. And it needs to be re-examined on how the structure itself of the league and standings and the point structure and everything needs to get revamped in my opinion.
Extremely disappointing. Downright embarrassing.
So you've got
Not one of the exit interview.
no, not the beginning of the season. Yeah. So you've got this good, the bad, the ugly for this season.
I do.
Go ahead and
Yeah, we have a segment called The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Thank you, Paul. That's going to be the theme kind of for the beginning part of the show, to kind of go over the good things that happened, the bad things that happened, and the really ugly things that happened during the entire season. So here we are. That is just fantastic.
so super producer Jason put that together, and we did not know that was coming. He's done this a few times. Remember the Eric Carlson thing?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, there you go. Dust them shoulders off, kid. Yeah, just fantastic job. Again, when you guys support the show, this is the type of stuff that you get for doing that. Thank you guys for helping him out there. Okay, what do you want to say about? Thanks, Claude. What do you want to say about the good?
All right, we'll start off with the good here. And I got graphics up here. This is not the right graphic, but that's the one I was talking about earlier. The next graphic I have is the good. There's a lot of stuff on here. I'm trying to get through this. So Macklin Celebrini, obviously good. This kid is a superstar. 4th in the league in scoring. His WAR wins above replacement is 4.65, which is the best on the team. He broke Joe Thornton's franchise record by 1 point. He had 115. Joe Thornton's record was 114. They had 39 wins this year. Not the biggest single season jump ever for the Sharks, but it was a big one. They went from 52 points last year to 86 this year, 21s last year, and actually the year before that was also 21 wins. To 39, almost not quite doubling, but pretty close to it. And the rebuild is clearly working, as it says. 5-on-5 high danger was even, finally. This was a big deal. I remember last year we were talking about high danger chances a lot, how much they're giving up. And they finally kind of shored that up a bit. And they basically had 90 high scoring chances for and 89 high danger goals against. I said chances, I meant goals. So that evens out. That's kind of where you want to be. Obviously, you want to have higher. You want to have more high danger goals for than the other team. Sharks did that by 1. I think they did both, right? They increased their high danger goals for and also decreased it from last year to make them break even.
I think the point here is that it's solid progress, right?
Yes.
Compared to last season where it was definitely a lot lower. When you take a look at, yes, the Sharks are going to pick like 9th essentially overall, again, barring some sort of change in the draft lottery, but it does show just how close they were to being that middle of the pack, almost getting the wild card, because they were 50-50, right? And so they were sort of middle of the pack. It's just unfortunate that the point situation didn't work out there. But go ahead, continue.
Yep. There's some more stats here. So the WAR leaders, again, WAR is wins above replacement, meaning if Celebrini is out of the lineup, the Sharks will have 4.65 less wins in the win column. So next up is Sherwood at 2.27. I think that's a little skewed because it is a lot of his stats come in from Vancouver since he was traded halfway through the season. Toffoli, 1.55. Graf, a guy that we talk about a lot here, tied with Toffoli for 3rd on the list at 1.55. Wennberg, a very important piece defensively as a forward, 1.26. Will Smith, 1.01. And Mario Ferraro, 0.98. The power play. The power play has gotten better this year. It went from, I think it was, I don't have the stats from last year. I'm going to have that in the next segment, actually, comparing last year. But 46 power play goals, 14.15 shooting percentage. The expected goals for was 88%. And the chances for, I think that's chances for, man, I can't even remember. 86.88. The power play dominated possession and generated quality chances. The expected goals for tells a story that 88% expected goal share is elite level zone time and shot quality. They looked good at times. They couldn't finish at times. That was kind of their MO. And also Klingberg on the back end wasn't quite the answer that they were looking for. He was a little bit in the season, but not consistent enough for the entire season. Unexpected contributions. This is a great one. Colin Graf, we just talked about his WAR. He had 21 goals this year. That's an undrafted free agent signing with the Sharks. Mike Grier doing an amazing job being able to convince basically Colin Graf that this is the team that he wants. And you don't see undrafted free agents putting up 20 goals in a season. So the future looks very good for Colin Graf. That's just bonus right there.
And I want to bring something up here too. And I talked about this last episode where I had the guy that was giving me some flack on Twitter about Colin Graf, right?
Right.
And this is kind of what I was talking about in terms of importance to the team. We took a look at that WAR stat, right? Wins above replacement. Colin Graf was the fourth guy on that list, and he was tied actually with Tyler Toffoli, which to me is a little surprising, to be honest with you, but tied with Tyler Toffoli for essentially third on that list, right? Now, Chernyshov was a .92 compared to the 1.55. He had a small sample size.
Yeah.
He got injured, had to find his way back into the lineup, not really find his way in terms of being on the top line or anything, but just kind of getting his legs back underneath him, right?
.92 WAR, so one game, right? That's impressive for a guy who did not play very much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm definitely not knocking Chernyshov. But what I am saying is take a look at everybody else that played on the roster, right? I mean, Colin Graf is up there. He's the tied for third highest WAR on this team. That shows his value. That shows his importance. And that's what I was getting at in terms of, being, irreplaceable in a sense. One of the most important players on the team behind, I think, Macklin and Askarov's importance to the team. So anyway, there you go.
Look at this Colin Graf.
So anyway, yes, look at that Colin Graf, man. He is a weapon on this team, not just offensively, but defensively. And that WAR stat kind of points to that.
I think Colin Graf is the Swiss Army knife of the San Jose Sharks. And every team that is going to be a cup contending team needs a player exactly like Colin Graf. You get an injury to somebody in your top six, he's going to slot in and be perfectly fine, perfectly comfortable, but he's mainly going to be playing on that third line and doing a lot of your penalty killing, a lot of your dirty work, but he's contributing still on the score sheet, making that third line very dangerous. He did at times, and I'll get to this in a little bit, play with Celebrini and Smith, the Hobie Baker line. All three of those were Hobie Baker finalists 2 years ago, not that long ago.
What was the other nickname for the line?
Barbecue or something?
Boston Quinnipiac. BBC.
So silly.
Anyway, anything else?
One other was Pavel Regenda. In his 24 games, he had a .94 WAR as well. So that is, and these were unexpected contributors.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of a surprise for me, was Regenda getting that many goals. Now his exit interview, I think Shane Peng had interviewed him a week ago, and he was disappointed. You fully understand where he's coming from, because he wants to get in the lineup. He wants to do good things. And when you're not getting in the lineup and the coach is making that decision to not put you in the lineup, it hurts, right? It's hard. And he's trying to get a foothold in the league and get the next contract because he's an unrestricted free agent. So I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to be coming back. And it's unfortunate. I thought the Sharks were going to try and move him. Maybe they did try and couldn't get any takers or anything, but I did like his game when he was in the lineup.
I have to agree with you. I thought for sure that he was going to be one of those guys that gets an opportunity with, maybe not a cup contending team or anything that's looking for some depth, but maybe a team that is kind of like on the lower end of the scale there, and they need a guy that looks like he could be promising for them and give Regenda a chance to step in and get some more NHL minutes. He did a great job with the Sharks when he did come up, and the numbers kind of show that, but you were kind of hoping that, those numbers might help him get moved to a team where he might be able to get some more ice time, but it is what it is.
Yep. All right, moving on to from the good, going into the bad. This is not great. 5-on-5 possessions, still below water. The Corsi 4-on-5-on-5 is 46.95. You want that above 50%. It's below 50%. Expected goals for 5-on-5, 46.91. Goals for percentage, 46.18. Goals for versus goals against 5-on-5. They had 163 goals for on 5-on-5 and 190 against. It seemed like at times, and I felt like a lot of times in the second period, the Sharks are being outplayed 5-on-5 a lot from other teams. And this is, again, the team is growing, right? It is a young team. They're getting it together. They're starting to play better, but that is going to be the next piece, one of the next pieces that needs to go in the other direction. We saw the high danger chances get evened out. This needs to get evened out, because when you get to playoffs, you cannot rely on your power play to keep your team above water. The Sharks really need to focus on their 5-on-5 play and get that ready to go, especially towards the end of the season when things get harder. As we saw in the last month of the season, those games, the Sharks needed to get a win and they didn't in some cases. So playing against teams that are very high caliber playoff teams, going deep into the playoffs. You're not going to be able to compete with these guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of focus that generally goes on special teams. Whether your PK is really good or if your power play is performing, the vast majority of the game is played even strength, 5-on-5. And if you can get those numbers to trend in the right direction, even if your penalty kill isn't doing too hot, even if your power play isn't really getting on the board, if you're dominating teams 5-on-5, then you're probably going to have a pretty successful season. As you said, a young team still learning. These numbers are still going in the right direction. They're just not where we need them to be in that contention for playoffs, obviously, because we're out of it, right? So moving on from 5-on-5, though, we just talked a little bit about special teams.
Penalty kill. I feel like the Sharks fans have been a little spoiled in the last couple of years, if you could say that, only because the penalty kill has always been the bright spot of the Sharks. As bad as they were the last 4 or 5 seasons, for some reason, their PK was always in the top 10. They were really good at the PK. Something changed. I know that a lot of the players changed. The defense changed out. We have some new guys, younger guys in there. Some of the veterans have moved on. Some of the really good PKers have moved on. Granlund was one of them. Yeah. So
I think mainly because we've only ever had a bunch of third and fourth liners for the past few seasons, right? So
yeah.
They're all pretty good at this.
Yeah. So 55 goals allowed on the PK. The PK save percentage was 85.53%. The PK expected goals for was 8.03. The high danger goals against the PK was 23. Allowing 55 goals on the power play is damaging. The PK allowed high danger shots at a rate that suggests systematic problems, not just goaltending. Both Grier and Warsofsky flagged this as a priority number 1 this offseason. We'll get to that a little bit later in the exit interviews, but they both talked about the PK needing to get fixed, as well as the 5-on-5, actually. They both singled that out. Anything else on the PK?
No, good.
Okay.
Moving here.
The 0-6-1 start, if you remember, Warsofsky saying, I would sell one of my children for a win.
I'd give up one of my children for a win.
There you go.
That's the one.
That is the one. We've been using it all season. That is gold for our show. That clip has paid off in dividends. That came from this season. That came from this streak, the 7-game losing streak to start off the season. Now, we were at the home opener, the season opener. Do you remember that game?
No, it's so long ago, honestly.
I'll refresh your memory real quick. Vegas. Sharks are winning. They were out playing Vegas. They were looking good, going to the win. All of a sudden, a bad play by Nedeljkovic in the net. And it goes in the net, right? It was a misplay. I think he slipped and fell, and it was like an empty net for, I want to say it was, oh my gosh, Eichel who scored it.
Okay.
Then, right before it went to overtime? No, it did go to overtime. I can't remember. No, it was right before. It was tied. That tied it. A weird goal tied it. And then with less than a minute left is when that puck kind of played in right past the blue line. Nedeljkovic skated way out and missed it. And they had another wide open net and scored. And everyone was like, Nedeljkovic, needs to stay in his net. All that talk. That comes out. Yeah. That was horrendous. That was like, we were like, oh, we're going to get our first win. We're so excited. First win, because last 2 seasons was like a 12-game losing streak to start the year. And we were like, oh, we're going to get the win for, the very first game of the season. It's starting off right. And then that happened.
So remember just a few minutes ago when I said if the Sharks won
one
more game,
yes,
if that was the one, and all we would need at that point is LA to just have lost one more game, we'd have been in playoffs.
It's brutal, right?
It just goes to show it doesn't matter what month you're playing in. 2 points is 2 points, right? And the games in October are just as important as the games that are happening now in April, right? Mm-hmm. It really doesn't matter when you gather them, just that you gather them. There's more eyes on it, obviously, and you see the swing of the percentages. Are you making playoffs or are you not? But 2 points is 2 points regardless of when you pick them up.
Quote from Ryan Reeves, which we'll get to later, and you can actually hear it. He said, you eliminate those 6 games at the beginning of the season, we're in the playoffs.
There you go.
There it is. All right. Blue line depth was a problem. We kind of knew this going into the season.
Yeah.
We were expecting, Orlov, expecting bigger things from Klingberg, I think. Maybe not defensively, and he did okay offensively, just not consistent. Outside of Orlov and Ferraro, the blue line was a rotating door of negative WAR. Only 2 defensemen produced positive value. Grier acknowledged that they were likely bottom 5 in goals against the league, and they were. Dickinson's WAR is at minus 0.32. That is not bad for a 19-year-old defenseman. I feel bad for Dickinson because he was kind of stuck in a hard place. Too good for the OHL, too young for the AHL, yet fine to play in the NHL.
Yeah, just simply not allowed to play in the AHL.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just trial by fire.
Mm-hmm.
Next season, the rules change, and he would be able to be at the Barracuda, assuming, and, if he was still 19, he's not, so he could go to the Barracuda next year.
We'll take a break from this for a second.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? He's got NHL games under his belt right now. We don't move him at all, right?
No, what I'm saying is the rule changes. If that rule change happened at the beginning of this season,
Yes.
he could have gone to the AHL,
Right.
and I think it would have done him some good to get some reps down there, maybe get some call-ups if he was producing and managing it well enough coming up. But it is what it is, and he ended up cutting his teeth at the NHL, which in the long run of the season, the Sharks didn't make playoffs. It's fine. He had a big learning curve. We saw him put up the best game by a Sharks player in top 10 in the league in the last game of the season, right? So he had his ups and downs because he also had the worst game of the San Jose Sharks during the season. So you're getting both ends of it from Dickinson, but he is going to be a very good defenseman.
Yes.
Top 4, possibly even by next season. He's going to learn a lot. He even mentioned as such in his exit interview that he's excited for the summer because it's the first time he's going to be able to train all summer. He wasn't able to last season. So he's going to be really working on his game and working out in the gym. He's going to bulk up.
Yeah.
He's going to get bigger, faster, stronger. And now that rookie season is done, right? Kind of like Will Smith, kind of like Michael Misa this year. You don't have a rookie. They're not rookies coming into next season, and you still have more rookies that will be coming up. You don't want too many rookies in your lineup at once. So it kind of gets rid of that and flattens it out a little bit of the learning curves in terms of players. Now they know what to expect, and expectations for them going into the season are going to be a lot higher than they would be going into this season. So it's not a terrible thing. Iorio and Liljegren no longer on the team. Mook Medulin, a minus 0.1 is not terrible. However, that should have been about a year ago. Mook Medulin is behind in his development, unfortunately.
Yeah,
because of
and
injuries.
He's still an RFA, correct?
Yes,
And he's on his contract is done now.
correct.
Right. So we're looking at re-signing him this offseason here. Do you think that gets done? Do you think there's a trade in the works? No.
No, I think Mook Medulin will get signed. I don't, unless a team wants him as part of a deal bringing someone else in, like another defenseman. That's that could be a possibility. I'm not going to say that won't happen, but as of now, assuming that he's not traded for whatever reason, I think the Sharks will sign him. Maybe they sign and trade him to a team, but I do think that he will get re-signed.
Yeah, I only ask because for me, for the first time in a long time, there are some question marks around Mook Medulin. He has been getting injured a little bit more than you would like to see. And as you said, he's a little bit behind right now in terms of his development, and that's probably a good part of it. The thing is, if he can stay healthy and he can catch back up, sweet. But if it's going to be constantly him having these little nagging injuries and he's constantly going to be behind on the development, it might be a better idea to just move on. And I don't know if that's what the Sharks are going to end up doing or not, but
I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah.
But I think they're going in that direction soon. I think this next contract could be a bridge contract. Shows you could stay healthy, shows you can improve, maybe a 2-year deal. Show me what you can kind of do. And then if not, then you move on from him. I don't think they're giving up on him just yet, but I do think the conversation is absolutely there and warranted.
Yeah, because the Sharks are going to be the defensive core is going to look so very different after this offseason is all done and they go into free agency and they make some trades and they go and get through the draft. It's going to look very different, and I am curious if Mook Medulin is going to be a part of that going forward. And I think you're on the right track. I think a 1 year, 2 year, something that's a bridge deal, just to see, hey, can you get back to form? Right. And if not, okay, then we're only on a 1 year, 2 year deal, whatever. But I have a feeling that this coming off season, we're going to have quite a few more defensive prospects in the system, and they are going to go out and get some more veterans to kind of fill those gaps. We've got a lot of unrestricted free agents, and I don't think we're going to re-sign all of them. We're going to see a lot of change on that blue line, and we'll see if Mukadulin's a part of that or a part of this team going forward. However, moving forward, we wanted to talk a little bit more about the bad.
Yes.
And we're going to bring up two names. One I'm almost afraid to mention.
You want me to mention it?
Because super producer Jason apparently has cooked something up with longtime sit-in on this show, Devereaux. Devereaux, I'm going to blame you if anything pops up here. But of course it would show up in the bad. Will Smith
and William Eklund.
Is their two Wills.
EVD war, which is even strength defense wins above replacement. So essentially, when you don't have the puck as a forward,
Yes.
how are you helping your team defensively? We already know kind of the answer. I'm kind of surprised by the Eklund one.
I'm very surprised by the Eklund. However, if you take a look at Eklund's number, it's a minus 0.18. It is so close.
I think Eklund also had tougher defensive responsibilities than Will Smith did. So Eklund was paired a lot with Wenberg, and they were taking mainly the defensive draws when they were able to and all that. So I think that kind of explains it. And he's only a minus 0.18. That's not terrible, right?
Yeah.
Will Smith minus 0.87. His power play war is a minus 0.39. So both Smith and Eklund were net negatives defensively at even strength for year 2 players who will be asked to carry bigger roles. This is a clear development focus heading into next season. Smith also missed 13 games with a shoulder injury. So
that number is very interesting to me. The Smith power play war being negative. I don't care how small negative it is, just the fact that it is negative. Because for me, that's where Will Smith should be shining, is on the power play. When there's people, I've said this a million times, when someone's attacking him, they take away his time and space, he tends to panic, he tends to throw the puck. Can't really hang on to the puck for himself. He can't really win board battles. Anything that has to do with any sort of physical contention for the puck, he's not very good at it.
When you take beat off walls,
he's getting beat off walls.
I'm gonna pick you like a booger and flick you into the stands.
Is that supposed to be Will Smith?
Wow. Wow. What was that?
Okay. Yeah, never mind. I'm not concerned at all anymore. But yeah, so wow. I don't know that he could pick a booger and flick him in the stands. Frankly, I don't know if he's strong enough for that. But my point is, when he's getting attacked, he panics and he throws the puck away. All these really nice no-look passes, a lot of times it's just him under pressure and rushing something. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But on the power play, where it's 5-on-4, you've got one less guy on the ice to deal with. That should give you more time and space. So to see him negative at all is surprising to me.
I wouldn't be surprised if part of it had to do when he came back from his injury. He wasn't as effective for a couple weeks, and it was because he had that shoulder injury. I think his shooting and his passing was off a little bit, especially his shooting. Kind of like when Toffoli earlier this season also went through a similar thing where I think it was it this year or last year? He had a shoulder injury, Toffoli did, and his shooting was off for a while, like a whole month. Like there were times where he was missing chances that he's normally burying, and you could tell something was off. Not the exact same, but I got the similar feel of that where you're like, Smith shot and you're like, that's not his normal shot. That something's off. Something is weird because he normally wires those in, and he's at least getting them on goal and making the goalie make a save, not missing by a mile. And that wasn't normal. So I wouldn't be surprised if part of it had to do with that, because on the power play, he usually is very deadly.
Absolutely. And that's again, the thing that I see Will Smith excelling at the most is take away players from their team and let me operate. Right. Then I can make those laser sharp passes. Mm-hmm. Then I can snipe that. Right. Because I've got the time and the space. I'm not worried about someone coming and pressuring me and then me having to find somebody to unload the puck to. Right. On the power play at least. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. I'm expecting that number to jump big time.
There's a great quote from Grier about Will Smith that we'll show at the end.
We will wait on that.
Yeah.
Then. All right. So let's move on. We're done with the bad.
Sorry, it was from Warsofsky, not Grier.
Okay. We're done with the bad now.
Done with the bad.
Okay.
On to
it gets worse.
The ugly. This is the ugly. This is really bad. 290 goals against. My Grier was correct. It is bottom 5 in the NHL. The single biggest obstacle to the Sharks' playoff push was the goals against column. 290 goals against in all situations, among the worst in the league, with an underlying 5-on-5 deficit of 163 versus 190, which we talked about earlier. The expected goals confirms that it wasn't bad luck. They were constantly getting outplayed at even strength. So 5-on-5 goals against 190, 5-on-5 save percentage 89.72. There's some quotes here, which I think we were actually going to cover later. So Askarov, November brilliance, year-long inconsistency. This is a sign of a up-and-coming goaltender, not somebody who's at the top of his game yet. For those of you who are worried about Askarov, don't be worried. This is a growth year. His first year in the league, basically as a starter. I'd say he was the 1A because he played more games than Nedeljkovic. They relied on him, and I think he might have maybe needed a little bit more of a break at times. The talent's undeniable. November showed what he can be, but a league average 5-on-5 save percentage and a below average high danger save percentage tells the story of a goalie still finding his footing as a full-time number 1. Grier called it expected growing pains. I still believe in Askarov. I think he's going to be a fantastic goalie. I think he could potentially be one of the greatest goalies of Sharks goalies of all time. Possibly a top 10 goalie in the league at some point once he's at the top of his game. And if he's not, the Sharks do have another player in Ravensburgen, up and coming, years away still, but someone in the wings that could also potentially be that kind of player.
I'm smiling because I'm proud of you. You said Ravensburgen, not
Yes.
Ravensburger.
Thank you. You hear me stutter.
You did.
You hear me stutter. So I'm like, in my head, I got to say it right.
No, I think you're absolutely right here with Askarov, right? We have to remember there's a lot of guys on this roster that are very young. Askarov, no exception, right? He's in his 20s, but the goaltending position, generally, you're not going to jump into the NHL as a really young guy and do extremely well. Frankly, for his age, he did extremely well. Mm-hmm. And again, we've talked about this before too, the difference between the AHL and the NHL. There's the speed, yes. But the difference between an everyday NHLer and a guy that's going to end up in the AHL is consistency, right? Mm-hmm. And right now, he's just a little inconsistent. That's all it is. That's going to change with the reps, with the time, with him getting a little bit older, wiser, everything else, right? That's going to come. I'm not worried about him at all, none whatsoever. Now, previously you had talked about how the goals against were a big problem. That is another sign of some growing pains, right? A lot of that, people are going to say, oh, the blue line was terrible. And yes, we are going to completely revamp the vast majority of that blue line. And you can't tell me that we're not going to bring in guys that are going to do better than what we did this season, because this season we weren't that great in the first place. However, it's not just the blue line. It's a lot of younger guys up front that are not able to do what the forwards need to do to stop the rushes from coming in, to stop them from crossing the blue line, to choke the neutral zone down, to be that F1 that's attacking hard, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of growing pains that are happening, not just on the blue line, but throughout the roster. And that obviously has an effect on the goaltending as well. And we'll take a look at Ned's stats a little bit later on. But I think that's the main takeaway with some of this ugly stuff so far is, yeah, it's ugly because a lot of them are still young,
yeah,
right? And once they get a little bit more of that experience in the league, and I don't mean like one more year, I mean a couple of years of experience, you're going to see these numbers improve dramatically.
It's not just the goaltender.
Yeah.
It is the full team. And we've seen a lot of goaltenders that come in the league that are super young. They're coming to a team that's already well established, that's already got a solid defensive core and a solid defensive team overall with forwards that could play back on defense. And 5-on-5 scoring is probably positive instead of negative, whereas the Sharks, it is still very negative. Mm-hmm. Once the Sharks change that aspect of their game, you're going to see the goaltending numbers improve. They do have good goaltending. I think Nedeljkovic and Askarov complement each other very well. I think the team is very comfortable playing with in front of either of those guys. They kind of have a similar style where they like to both play the puck behind the net. So the team is completely used to it. You're not having one goalie that plays the puck behind the net like Askarov, and then you have another goalie that doesn't play it at all. That would, I think, throw off the defense when they're going back to get the puck retrieval. So I think it's very complimentary of having both of those guys as the goalies for the San Jose Sharks. And also Nedeljkovic did sign that extension, so he's going to be here for another 2 years. So I'm not worried about the goaltending. Even if the numbers, if you look at the numbers, just the raw numbers, it's kind of like, it's not great because they're under 900 save percentage. It's going to get better.
But remember, and I've said this seasons past, goaltending numbers are very much so team numbers. Goalie stats are team stats. If the goalie's goals against is really high, a lot of that has to do with the guys in front of him that are allowing these breakdowns that allow those goals to go in. Even if his save percentage isn't that great, that could be a reflection of he makes the first save, it kicks a rebound out, nobody gets boxed out, and it gets knocked in, right? So again, goalie stats are very largely team stats. The exception, I think, would be those advanced stats that try to nail down just the goalie and doesn't account for everybody else on the roster, right? Those like expected goals and that kind of thing, right? So I think if we just look at the base stats, you're going to see more of a reflection of the team than of that one player.
The high danger is kind of a good test, I think.
Yeah.
High danger save percentage for goaltenders, because a lot of times you'll see goaltenders on terrible teams have a really good high danger save percentage. Blackwood is probably a good example where you see him making a lot of big saves when he was on the Sharks. And I was like, man, someone's going to trade for him. And the rumor was Colorado. I'm like, Colorado's going to take him and he's just going to run with it. And that's exactly what he did. This was a year ago. He was lights out for the first 2 months, I think, of playing for Colorado because they had a very good team. They still have a very good team, very good defense. Their core is there, and they know how to play. And he just had to do his thing. That's what I'm hoping and expecting the Sharks to slowly get to. They're not going to be overnight into next season playing like that, but that is what Grier is trying to build. In fact, later on, we have some really good quotes. I'm excited to listen to these about that exact same thing. And what you had said earlier about revamping the blue line, he talks about that. So there's a lot of stuff coming. Moving on to more of the ugly, falling short of when it mattered most.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we'll just get through these because it's really ugly. The Sharks were alive until the final 2 games of the season, then dropped critical games to Edmonton, Anaheim, and Nashville at home when they needed the wins the most. A young team learning what playoff intensity hockey demands for the first time. There's a good quote from Warsofsky, which I actually have the clip later that we'll get into. Injury losses and negative war anchor tied to Landria. He missed almost half the season, minus 1.44. The poor guy, when he came back, he did not look in form, Rhett, the last couple weeks. And they weren't even playing him in any back-to-backs. They were kind of easing him back in. He did sign an extension. This is one of Grier's guys. This is one of the guys that he really likes and wants on that fourth line, and as a penalty killer. Barclay Goodrow, another guy with a negative war, but he's not really there to win games. He's doing the dirty work. I'm okay with it. Misa, played 45 games because of partially injuries. Will Smith also only played 69 games because of injuries. So the depth got exposed in the second half. I think part of it is that, and I think another part is you have so many young guys that aren't used to playing 82 games in a season. It's a grind. It is a lot. You have to look at what Joe Thornton did, what Brent Burns is still doing, playing in his 1,000th consecutive game at 41 years old. You see what guys like that, how they do that and how they prepare themselves and how they take care of their bodies, because it is not easy to make all 82 games in a season. And next year is going to be even harder because there's 84 games next year. It's a young team. They're coming together. I think we've seen the improvement, right?
Yeah.
How many points they got compared to last season, and they're on the up and up. I'm excited for next season. Yes, we just went through the ugliness, but I think that stuff is going to be corrected.
I think there'll be less ugly next season, and what will be considered ugly next season is kind of more like what we're considering bad now, right? That's my take on that. I think they have a very big step. And they already took a very big step, as you alluded to. 47 points, up to 52 points, up to now 86 points. That is a meteoric rise. That is a humongous jump, largely due to one player. But still, you have to tip your cap to Mike Grier, his development group, his scouting group. And a lot of people don't want to, but you have to tip your cap to Ryan Warsofsky as well. You know, a lot of people didn't like the way that he coached. That's fine. But I'm guessing the guy who's made a career out of it probably knows a little bit more than the guy that's, sitting on his couch and criticizing it as he's chugging, Sprite and eating popcorn. I'm just saying.
I'm blown away how many comments that I saw in the last 2 weeks about people calling for Warsofsky's head because they didn't make playoffs this season. I'm like, what? He can only do so much with the roster. I think the blue line is the main problem.
Yeah.
They need to have better defense, better defensemen. The forwards and the goaltending, I think, are fine. It's the defenseman that needs an overhaul. It's not Warsofsky's fault. Some people were upset about the scratches and putting certain people in the lineup. We're not in that locker room, so we don't know.
We don't know who was injured or who was going through something, and they had to, put somebody else in their place. We don't know. We're not on the inside there.
Right.
Trust
Us
me.
fans.
It sucks.
It does suck. I want to be on the inside. That's what I'm saying. But we did. We talked a little bit about, last season, the season before, and the amount of points that we gathered up. But we're going to do a little bit more of an in-depth look now, comparing this season to last. So
Yes.
Fire away.
I don't need to really necessarily go through all of these stats, but we'll have some graphics up here. And I apologize for all the podcast people, but all the green is good. Yellow is not a lot of change, and red is bad. So the points, obviously, we talked about the wins. Draft pick odds. Last season, they had a 45% chance of getting the first overall pick. They ended up getting the second overall and drafted Misa. This year, they have a 5% chance. So that's in a good way.
Yeah.
Or in a way, it's a good thing. Goals for. They went from 207 last year to 249. That's a big 42 goal increase. Goals against. They actually had more goals against this year than last year, which is surprising to me. The goal differential, though, obviously with the more goals for, it's going to be down. So the goal differential did improve. Their Corsi improved, which is good. From 44 to 46. That is Corsi is shots for. So it kind of looks at when you're on the ice and you take a shot for, not necessarily a shot on goal, because it could go wide. They're going to count that as a +1.
Shot attempts.
Right, shot attempts. And then coming back the other way, same thing. Expected goals for went up. I mean, the offense went up.
Yeah.
The forwards and the offense look good, and they all went up. Obviously, the goals against went down.
But let's take a look real quick. You've got goals for went up by 23 goals, and the goals against, it went up as well, but it only went up by 5.
Yeah.
So the differential got better,
Right.
despite the fact that we let more in. The output offensively was more than enough to cover that. Is the point?
I feel like last season we saw a lot more 1 to 2 goal losses. A lot of games they couldn't close out, and they ended up losing. In fact, they had over 30 that they were within a close goal game, which is considered within a goal if you take away the empty net goals, right? This season, when they lost bad. I think there was more blowouts when they lost, and when they won, they were close games. So I think that goal differential, that's a good explanation of why they had so many, they almost made playoffs, but their their goals against was so high. It's because when they lost, they lost. Kind of like when they beat Winnipeg in the last game of the season.
Yeah.
It was like when they lost, it was like those games on the other end.
Yeah.
Like they just tended to get blown out. High danger goals for percentage went from 41 to 50%. That is great finishing.
Yeah.
Right there. That's something that we did not see last season very much of. Power play went up a little bit from 13 to 14.15. They scored more power play goals. Their penalty kill went from 50 to 55, so they let in 5 more penalties or power play goals against them.
Very negligible.
Yeah, nothing big. Are we on the next graphic here? Yeah, we're on the next. There we go. Sorry. Goals for rank, they went from 27th to 19th in the league. Goals against, they went from 29 to 28th. So sure, they progressed by 1. Expected goals for share rank, only 2 more spots from last year. Their finishing rank, though, there's a big jump from 18th, which is kind of middle of the pack, to 9th. They're top 10 in the league on finishing. They're shooting above expected, meaning they have elite shooters on their team. They're bearing chances that analytics, I guess, would say that they shouldn't be scoring these goals, right? That's kind of the explanation of it. Their finishing is their shooting percentage is higher, I think, than what their expected shooting percentage is, because they have elite shooters.
And the funny thing is, again, the majority of those elite shooters are probably young guys. They're going to get better and they're going to gel more. That finishing and their ability to put the puck in the net, it's only going to go up from there, right? And that is, again, we go back to why I thought guys like Colin Graff are so important to this team. We've got guys that can score. We need guys that are also there to help keep the puck out of the net. And that is the nice thing about the blue line getting revamped is they're going to target specific guys for that specific defensive purpose, because we have guys that are so young that are going to be here for so long that are that talented that can finish when they have the puck on their stick. So next season, I'm expecting a lot of these numbers that we just looked at to look even better. And a lot of them, as you saw on the screen there, when you looked at the difference from this year to last year, or last year to this year rather, there's a lot of green there. Everything was trending, again, in the right direction. I think you're going to see the same exact thing next season. We're just going to get even that much better as the kids get a little bit older and they gel a little bit more. So all good things in my opinion here. Moving on
to the WAR leaderboard. Again, wins above replacement. So if they are not in the lineup, you would expect the Sharks to have these less amount of wins. So again, Macklin Celebrini leading the way at 4.65. Sherwood 2.27, but that is kind of skewed because that includes Vancouver's stats before he was traded. Tyler Toffoli, Colin Graff, Alex Wenberg. I mean, you can see all this in order. Those are all the positives. The negatives here: Ryan Reeves, almost negligible, 0.15. Sam Dickinson, negative 0.32. We talked about him earlier. Iorio Gaudreau, minus 0.93, and Delandria, minus 1.44. Here's an explanation on those guys. Dickinson is expected for a 19-year-old year one. Strong Evo WAR is a positive sign. Delandria is worse on the team, but he missed significant time due to injury, was playing well before he went down. Gaudreau's all negative value came from offense. His defensive WAR is still slightly positive. Role player doing role player things. Reeves virtually break even his values off the score sheet, which I cannot agree with more. What he has done in this locker room, being right next to Celebrini all year, breaking his pinky, if you did not hear, and that fight that he had, and he messed up his finger. We didn't know exactly what it was. He broke his pinky in, I think it was 9 different places or something like that. So he has it in we're going to have clips of him later, and you'll see his little sling, or not sling, but
the bandage that's on there.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. Splint.
Kind of thing.
Splint.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about freaking fragile, okay?
But anyway, when he got hurt, he broke his pinky in 9 places, goes in the locker room, comes back, and goes on the bench because he thought that was possibly his last game ever in the NHL, which is why after that game, both Gaudreau and Klingberg teared up. Was it Klingberg?
I don't remember who the second one was, but I remember Gaudreau.
Yeah, they teared up when they were asked about Reeves and what he meant to his team and how great it was that he came back to the bench. Obviously, they couldn't talk about his injury or that it possibly could be his last game, but it was kind of obvious. I mean, we talked about it on the show. He mentioned it, saying, you know, they were emotional because I was very emotional in the locker room. He probably gave a speech like, "Hey, boys, this is it. Like, I'm done. I'm going to be, this is my last game ever. So, and I want to be out there with you guys. I want you to go out there and get the win and do everything you can. But I'm going to be sitting there cheering you on, even though I broke my pinky in 9 spots and I'm in pain."
You know what got me is when he threw that punch and he damaged his finger and then they stopped the fight and everything. And you see him and he goes like this. And you're thinking, oh, maybe dislocated and he's popping it back in or something, right? That was our guess, was that maybe it just kind of popped out and he was putting it back into place. If it was broken in 9 spots and he went like this, are you kidding me? Dude, you are insane.
God.
Oh my God. But yes, of course, he gets back on the bench. He's there rooting to get the boys on. And I don't know if you saw some of the stuff that they were doing after he was out of the lineup in the tunnel. Right? If you guys saw this one with Sam Dickinson, where they were kind of like dancing with each other, whatever that was, I can't replicate it. But it was amazing because that's what he does. I'm here to help the boys get pumped up and ready to play the game. Doesn't matter if I'm on the bench. Doesn't matter if I'm suiting up. Doesn't matter if I'm, with the boys, kicking the soccer ball around. I'll be in my street clothes. That's fine. But when they're ready to come out and get on the ice, you better believe I'm going to be there to get them pumped up and ready to go. And that's one of those guys that this is what he does.
Yes.
Whether he's on the ice or not, this is what he brings, and the boys love him.
He's a reminder that this is a child's game, and they are getting paid to play a child's game, right? They're very lucky to do it. You see a guy who is almost at 1,000 games in his career and hasn't won a cup yet. He wants to come back and win another cup. We'll have his clip about that. But it reminds me of the looseness and fun that the team had when it was Joe Thornton, Brent Burns, Pavelski, Marlowe, Couture coming in. How loose and silly and fun they were, and how much fun they had. And everyone talked about when they come onto the team, like, because at that time they were top contender, right? And they're bringing in all these guys that trade deadline. And they're like, this is crazy. Like, we didn't have this kind of atmosphere at my last team. Like, it's so loose and fun, and I'm excited to come to the rink every day. It doesn't feel like work. And that is the exact same culture that is now in San Jose. Again, finally, it doesn't feel like work. Everyone's a tight-knit, very family feel. And again, we're going to show clips talking exactly about the culture and what Reeves has pretty much, not in all Reeves, but he has definitely helped cultivate this and make this a fun place to be for players to come in and feel welcomed and feel like they're part of the family. It's not cliquey. They're not going off on doing their own things and never hanging out with each other. They said they're always hanging out with each other. Everywhere they go, first thing they do when they get off a plane and they're in the city is making dinner plans with everybody. Everyone's always going and staying together. So the team is glued together. And some of the exit interviews, I didn't get some of these clips, but Desharnais talked about how this is the closest he's ever been in the 4 years he's been in the league. He's never been on a team like this, ever. there you go. Desharnais. He's never been on a team this close. That was kind of the theme that every single player had talked about in their exit interviews.
Yeah, and I go back to the beginning, I think it was towards the beginning of the season, where Ryan Reeves had everybody go to the Book of Mormon, and he's sitting in between Will and Mac as they're watching this thing, and I think they were saying, yeah, he sat between us, and he's kind of a big guy, so we didn't have that much room. But that's what this is what Ryan Reeves does, and this is the culture that they have cultivated for this team now, is that it's a family. It's one big family. And I'm very happy that at least with the forward group, the vast majority of them are returning. But I'm confident that the blue liners that they do bring in some way, shape, or form, be that call-ups from AHL that are now going to get their opportunity to play in the show, or guys that they go out and get in free agency or through a trade, that they are going to feel just as welcomed as everybody else. And this will be something that is perpetual for the San Jose Sharks as long as this core stays together and they push this same type of togetherness as a team core value. And again, this is one of the things that Reeves is kind of helping Macklin along with, right? And Macklin, he's going to be the captain of this team sooner or later. I think sooner. He's going to be the captain of this team.
Sure. Yeah.
And this is something that is going to be part of how he runs his squad, right? Everybody is together. Everybody is family. We're going to do everything together, making dinner plans. We're going to go see a show together. We're going to all have a book club. We're all reading the same book for whatever, right? Who does this, right? So I think this is what you're going to see going forward, especially because he is the leadership group.
I mean, look at who he's surrounded by. Ryan Reeves, for one, but who's his landlord?
Yeah,
Joe Thornton, right? Who also did all this stuff when he was on the Sharks.
Yeah.
So he's learning he's surrounded by really good cast of people that's giving him different things. I mean, even Logan Couture is around, even though he's not playing.
Yeah.
He's still around and helping cultivate this culture again.
And when Macklin goes over to the Marlowe's house to hang out with Will, there's another guy that was a former captain and an absolute leader of the Sharks for the longest time as well. So yes, absolutely surrounded by former captains, really good leadership guys that aren't even playing anymore, but that can bestow some of that knowledge upon them. But again, the things that Ryan Reeves is helping out with seems to be enough because, man, this team is clicking when it comes to that togetherness, that feeling of family, as I've been talking about. So speaking of togetherness, some of these guys played a little bit more together than others throughout the season. You've got some trios.
Yeah. This is cool. I really like this data. Now, all this data is from Natural Stat Trick, and this is the most used trios for 5-on-5. This is forward, so the three forward, center, left wing, right wing. Tyler Toffoli, Celebrini, and Smith. They had 210 minutes together, the second most trio. They had 17 goals for and 6 against. That is fantastic for 5-on-5. The Smith, Celebrini, Graf line was the most used trio, just slightly more minutes there. They had 13 goals for and 8 against. And then the Chernyshov, Celebrini, Smith line only had 125 minutes, and that was towards the end of the season. But 8 goals for, 4 against. Those top 3 lines, obviously it's Celebrini and Smith, right? For all 3 of them. And then you're just swapping out Chernyshov, Graf, and Toffoli. I have a feeling Chernyshov is going to be the guy starting next season. Now, who knows what happens in the offseason, but that would be my guess for the starting one, which means Toffoli and or Graf. They'll probably alternate between the second and third line there. But then we got Sherwood, Wenberg, Eklund, 146 minutes together. That was after Sherwood came. 7 goals for, 8 against. That was okay. The Eklund, Wenberg to Foley line, not great here, surprisingly. But I think they're playing against some tough competition. 2 goals for and 13 against 5-on-5. The Goudreau, Ostapchuk, and Reeves line, they had 199 minutes together. They're not expected to be scoring here. They're expected to be bringing the energy and smack some guys around. 4 goals for, which is okay, and 9 against, not great. But
I'll tell you what,
fourth line.
for a fourth line, those numbers aren't bad.
Yeah.
For basically just being a -5, right? And over the course of 200 minutes, I don't think a minus, because remember, these guys, this isn't 200 minutes, it's 60 minutes in a game. No, this is like the 10, 12 minutes or whatever that they're getting, right?
Right.
That 200 minutes worth of time. And to only be down by 5 goals as a fourth line, that's not bad. I'm okay with that one. It was really surprising seeing that other line, that third line, just doing kind of poorly, really.
Yes.
2 goals for and 13 goals against for the Eklund, Wenberg, Toffoli line. Frankly, the other one here, the Sherwood, Wenberg, Toffoli line. I'm sorry, Sherwood, Wenberg, Eklund line, where we saw them and we're going, man, this line has the juice. This line is kicking right now. And they looked fantastic. By the numbers, apparently not as good as what we all saw, but they were doing a great job, I think, when it came to getting chances, when it came to that forechecking pressure, right? I think they gave teams a lot to have to try and handle, and I thought they did a really good job of that throughout the season, especially considering that Sherwood was brought in as the season had already progressed, and you've got to kind of try to learn somebody else that's now jumped into the roster here.
I think that line sticks together also
too.
going in. So you're going to see some consistency starting the season next year. And I think we're going to see the forwards looking really good.
Well, there you go. So then your other line is going to be Misa with Toffoli and Graf then.
Yep.
If that's because if the other line stays together, right? And Chernyshov is going to be on the top line. Will Smith's not coming off of Macklin Celebrini's line.
Nope.
That's
Wrong rink, coach. The Juice Box Brigade is on rink 2.
You need to put a number 2 on him for Will Smith.
Yeah, put a number 2 on. I think he ate a few donuts in that clip there, though. That was
like Eric Cartman.
Yeah. I think that we've got our frankly top 4, all 4 of our lines set going into the next season. I really do. I like what we have. Ostapchuk has been a revelation. He's been fantastic. Super speedy, big body, just does a really great job. And then you throw anybody else. You've got Goodrow, you've got Reeves, you've got Ty Delandry, and now it's going to be coming back into the fold. Feeling healthy again, hopefully playing better than he did as the season progressed when he came back, right? And I'm sure you're going to see somebody else leave and someone else come in.
Right.
And I honestly, I think that fourth line is still looking pretty good no matter which way you cut it. So I think you're already looking at probably the lineup for next season right now.
Again,
right?
the forwards and the goaltending to me they look solid. They look, I mean, maybe not completely set in concrete, but I think they look healthy and they look dangerous. I think they make the team look really good. The defense is really just the problem. And it's something that we knew going into the season that was going to be their downfall unless they were going to make some big moves.
So we looked at a bunch of stats. We looked at the comparison between last year and this year. Is there like a final takeaway that you have then?
Just that going over the stuff, like the power play looked pretty good. It looked okay. It's not elite, but it's on its way. I think if that can get into the top 10 next season, which I think it can, that's really going to help carry the team even more. The even strength is really what needs to get focused on. Even strength defense and also offense as well. Not relying on the power play to carry your team, but to complement your team, I think is the way to go. So if they can build the team that is really good at 5-on-5, who cares if the power play is not going to be on fire, right? You don't need it to be.
Yeah.
Because your team is going to be winning games and closing out games, more importantly, and getting wins.
Yeah, I think the biggest improvement that this team can make, that Mike Grier can make, is on defense. And obviously, again, we've got a lot of 1 year left UFA. Those contracts are essentially done now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, come July 1st, they are no longer property of the San Jose Sharks. We're going to have a whole different group of guys coming in. And I really feel like we're going to have not just new faces, but guys that are more targeted by Grier. This is what we need, right? I think we're in a spot now where it's not just, let's just grab anybody that's willing to play for us. This is what we need. And we've said this before too. I think now free agents and guys that have no trade lists, I think that they're more willing to come to San Jose now.
Absolutely.
Right? Yo, they didn't make playoffs again. First of all, fire Ryan Warsofsky. But they didn't make playoffs again. Oh my God. No. If anybody who knows what they're looking at when they're looking at the San Jose Sharks knows this team's on the up and up. And if I want to be a part of that, I need to get in now.
It's also not, I wouldn't put it all on the players. It's their agents. Their agents are the one that's directing their players into, hey, they didn't make the playoffs, but Celebrini's there. The Celebrini factor is going to make you a lot of money.
Yeah, and imagine being an offensive defenseman that's a free agent, or that is on a team that's maybe not so hot, right? If you're an offensive defenseman and you can run a power play, I mean, the San Jose Sharks are kind of the perfect destination for you, because that's essentially what they really need right now. Mm-hmm. Whether you think John Klingberg was a solution, his contract's up. So unless they're bringing him back, I don't see that necessarily happening. Luca Cagnoni, though very promising, didn't get a foothold as the number one power play guy because he only got a handful of games, right? So if you're an offensive defenseman and you're looking for a new contract, San Jose is a really good destination for you right now. And that's my pitch to all those Quinn Hughes wannabes out there. So there you go. But yeah, I think for the Sharks, what it comes down to is the defensive side of the game, not just the forwards, obviously, but all the newer guys that we're bringing in. Once that happens, I think you're going to see a very different set of stats at the end of next season. Because, defense wins championships, but defense also feeds the offense. If you're able to get the puck back in your defensive zone and they're not peppering you and hemming you into your zone, and you can get that good first pass coming out, that just feeds the offense. We've already seen that we've got really strong offensive talent and threats on this team. So that is the first thing, is bringing in new blue liners that are really going to help this team a lot. The other thing is not just power play in general, but the one thing that stood out to me, I already talked about it, Will Smith on the power play. That to me is an anomaly. Those bad numbers is an anomaly. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's that bad on the power play. I think there was just something, like you said, maybe with the shoulder or whatever, right? But I think next season, he spent some time in the offseason getting stronger. Hopefully, and I really don't want to have to talk. I really don't want to have to talk about how he's, weak on pucks, because I hope that's something that he works on. And I can point to him next season and say, that's what I was talking about. That's the Will Smith I know that you could be.
Right? Nice beard, Paul. Did you grow that yourself? Or are you just wearing a very angry squirrel on your chin?
What? First of all, animated Will Smith, you can't even grow one.
Oh my God, I love the chirps.
Isn't it great?
Awesome.
Was it angry squirrel? Was it angry? Animated angry. I think it was angry anyway. Stupid, but
I'm not worried about Will Smith. To me, Will Smith is a normal not rookie, but young trajectory of a young player who never had to really do those things on any of his teams and is learning how to do it. And it's harder at the NHL level, obviously. But I think he is slowly adding those tools. The last couple of games, there's times where I saw him beat the guy off the boards, where he battled for the puck and won it and turned it around.
Beat off walls.
There was one goal specifically in that Winnipeg game where it was all him getting the turnover right at the half or at the half line against the boards, turns it over, it goes to Chernyshov and Celebrini, and then they end up scoring a goal.
You will have to show me those clips.
Yeah, because I meant to show you because I'm like, this is exactly what you've been talking about, and he did it.
So that. But that's what I want everyone to understand this. That's what I want. That's what I want, right? But the fact that we're pointing at 1 or 2 clips throughout the entire season just means that I'm right. That's all it means.
I'd explain my shooting percentage to you, Paul, but I don't think the signal reaches all the way down there.
That's fantastic. That is. Wow. Who wrote these? I think he did. Did she write all these? Yeah.
I take full credit and responsibility for these, yes.
So what he's talking about is I'm 5'7", so that's the signal is too low.
In your booster seat, yeah.
In my booster seat. There you go. Yeah, let's all just pile on. Fantastic. All right. What else do we want to talk about then? Because if I talk about Will Smith anymore,
let's move on to the next segment here. We're gonna go through our predictions that we had in the beginning of the season and laugh and have a good laugh.
So I want to preface this with I didn't have enough time to go to the dollar store and get a clown nose, but I really wanted to for this segment because
part?
I think you know exactly which part. In fact, you guys will know as soon as we get there. Go ahead, Aaron. Let's just run through this real fast.
All right, we'll start with the goals. Yeah. Paul and I both did not take Celebrini for the most goals scored. So I chose Tyler Toffoli, and I said he would get close to 40 goals. He ended up with 19, half of what I was expecting.
Compared to what I said, that is.
Paul chose.
I said.
Go ahead. I'll let you say it.
I said Jeff Skinner.
Wow.
Because he came off a really good year with Edmonton, right? He came off a good year with Edmonton, and he played, I think it was like third line minutes or something is what it was. And that's what my reasoning was that he'll come to this team, he'll play with Macklin most likely. He never did. And if he does, he's going to score.
He had 16 goals in Edmonton in 72 games.
But he was playing third line minutes though.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what my point was. He was playing on a team where he wasn't going to get into the top of the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Draisaitl, McDavid, he's not going to get in and break those guys out, right? So he's going to play with, on this roster, probably going to play more on the top line or even the second line, right? He's going to get more ice time. He's going to get more opportunity with guys that are offensively minded, not third line grinder type guys, right? So that was my whole reasoning behind that, thinking that Skinner was going to be kind of this revelation for the Sharks. And if he was a revelation,
he actually got less.
He revealed that I was incredibly off on that one, and this is where I would have liked to have the clown nose. Frankly, I mean, this.
Get on with it.
What? So like the clown nose. This isn't enough for just a nose. I needed the rainbow wig. I needed the whole 9 for this one. This was bad.
I did say in that episode, our prediction episode, that he wasn't going to get there because he was going to get traded, and I was wrong.
He was going to get traded. Why though?
Because a contender was
because he was going to do so good that they were going to trade him. Yeah.
I just didn't think he was going to be on the roster because he only signed a 1-year deal.
Yes.
It was obvious that he wasn't going to be here into next season. If things didn't work out, he would just be traded, or in his case, his contract was bought out and he was a free agent.
I listened to the episode. It was you thought it was because he was going to do well and he was going to go to another team. So there you go. So no, but comically wrong. I thought he was going to get 35. He ended up with 6.
In 32 games.
In 32 games.
He just couldn't get in the lineup, couldn't stay in the lineup. It's unfortunate because so his contract was bought out and any team could have signed him by the trade deadline to qualify for playoffs, and nobody signed him. So he is still an unrestricted free agent, free to sign anywhere, but that might be the end of his career. We'll see if anyone picks him up this summer.
Yeah, I feel like I have a Noah Gregor jersey and maybe I need a Jeff Skinner jersey now. That was just really, really bad. I mean, I had the right intentions.
Right.
I was hoping that he would kind of take what he did in Edmonton with little amount of time and be able to play in the top 6 role and do something good, but just wasn't to be. So, oh well. Moving on from that, well, most goals, obviously, Macklin Celebrini
with 45.
with 45 goals. Let's just, real quick, how insane is that one?
Yeah.
That Macklin got 45 goals.
I remember in the beginning of the season, I was expecting him to be more of a playmaker than a goal scorer.
Yeah.
And, oh man, he just blew everyone away with his goal scoring. So his shot is amazing. And I'm going to see where he ranks. Like, who is the second best was Will Smith at 24 goals.
Yeah.
And then right behind that was Kiefer, although a lot of those were from
17
Vancouver.
of those. So he got 6 goals
Yeah.
while he was with the Sharks.
And Colin Graff with 21. So that is 4 20 goal scorers. 20 plus.
It's Colin Graff.
Hey, how about Colin Graff, though, breaking the 20 goal mark there?
Yes.
Played almost every game.
Yeah, he missed one
Just
game.
missed one game. For a guy that it was undrafted and spent a lot of his time in the AHL perfecting his penalty killing craft, to be able to step in and play almost all the games and still break the 20 goal mark and be relied on for the PK. Again, This is what I'm talking about. He is so important to this team. Congrats to him on that one there. It's quite the accomplishment, and I'm expecting more even next season because he's only going to go up.
Also an amazing thing, which we didn't even put in our notes. Macklin played all 82 games, as did Mario Ferraro, Barclay Goodrow, and Dmitry Orlov. That's amazing to have Ferraro and Orlov, your top 2 kind of defensive defensemen, if you will. Is also the only 2 that had a positive WAR on the defensive side.
Yeah.
So very important pieces to the Sharks. I'm not sure if Ferraro is going to be coming back, but I have a feeling what he's going to do is go test free agency, see what's out there, who wants to offer him anything, and then if nothing really is what he wants, he'll come back to the Sharks.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm not sure how many points Ferraro got, but that is the next category that we had predictions on, was the most points. And Aaron, I think we agreed on this one. And we both got it right, if I recall, just, again, comically off with how much we were going to be read by.
We both said Celebrini.
Yes.
I said 80 and you said 85. And he ended up with 115.
15 points.
Can you imagine if we boldly predicted that he was going to get over 100 points?
I'll say this. I was scrubbing through that episode, right? The first episode of the season. And I heard you talking about the difference between Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini. That you felt like Connor Bedard's going to be a very good offensive talent. He's going to get 100 points a season. But Macklin Celebrini is going to be that superstar that gets 120. Eventually. He was 5 points away off.
I wasn't expecting it in his sophomore season.
Yeah.
Usually you see a sophomore slump. No. Celebrini was like, nope.
So I do have a question for you about Celebrini.
Yeah.
Does he regress a little bit?
No.
No?
No. Unless he gets hurt.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, points per game, I'm saying then.
no, absolutely not. I think this could possibly be his floor. Not for his career. Obviously, when he gets older, he'll slow down. But think about it that way. Is this his floor? 115 points?
Yeah.
Are we expecting 130? 120 to 130 next season? Are we expecting more? I don't know. He got the same amount of points, or roughly the same amount of points that McDavid did his sophomore year, which is nuts.
And McDavid has...
Let me look that up real quick.
He's leading, or he led, I guess, the league with, I want to say 130 something, 136.
He had, I have it up right here.
Something like that.
Let's switch to playoffs again. Stupid thing.
I mean, if that's what we can expect out of Macklin going forward.
138
Yeah,
points
138.
For McDavid. So his sophomore year, he had 100 points. So he actually did better
In his sophomore year.
in his sophomore year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, McDavid had 116 points in his 4th year. 4th.
McDavid has a Draisaitl that helps fuel some of that. Obviously, Draisaitl's injured, but Will Smith is not Leon Draisaitl. Let's not go there.
No.
You can play whatever clip you want.
But
Will
is
Smith
Michael
not.
Misa going to be there?
Maybe.
When he's older.
Yeah.
Not right away. Michael Misa, we're expecting big things. In fact, Michael Misa is expecting big things out of himself next year. He's quoted as saying, "You haven't seen the real me yet. I'm excited for next season."
Misa's only averaged, I think, 12 minutes of ice time a game So yeah, I'm expecting him to get a lot more minutes as he kind of matures here in the league.
I think we see a big growth spurt
Yeah.
of him next season.
Yeah.
We saw kind of flashes of it right after the break, the Olympic break. He was playing kind of lights out for a while, for a couple weeks. I think just that grind again, 82 game grind for a young player who's never really played that many games and that close together. It's hard. It takes a toll on their body and mentally. I think it's hard.
And I think he played just about half the games, 40-something games, and I'm pretty sure he had like 9 goals and maybe 20-something points is what the stat line was on Michael Misa. So for a 19-year-old who is not Macklin Celebrini, that's actually not bad. And we're going to give him some time to kind of ramp up in this offseason, maybe getting a little bit stronger, getting a little bit faster, getting a little bit more of everything that he needs to be more of a 2C. I think for next season. Now, will he actually take that? We don't know, but I think that growth is coming, and you're going to start seeing him, maybe not to the point levels that Macklin's at necessarily, but certainly I think we got Will Smith as the second in line, and he had, 59 points is what we said? I think Michael Misa can certainly get higher than that, and I'm sure Will Smith will as well.
I think Misa can hit almost 50 points next year.
Sure.
In a full season.
Yeah.
He's not going to be on that kind of limited games, and he was hurt too, so he missed a chunk there. But yeah,
moving on from players to goalies.
Yes,
we said best goalie. Now we went in different directions here.
Yes,
and how are you feeling about that?
I went with Askarov. We were talking about save percentage, is what we were thinking.
I was asking what's the metric that we should be going for. We could say save percentage, sure, but I have the rest of the metrics there anyway. But go ahead. So anyway, Askarov.
Well, I'm trying to remember back in the beginning of the season, I was expecting Askarov to be the better goalie, I guess. And it's kind of
how do you measure that, right?
I think I said he would play more though. He would be more the 1A than 1B, and I was right about that. He had 47 starts versus 34 for Nedeljkovic. And Askarov did have an injury during the season, so he did miss some time where Nedeljkovic had to step in and play. But he ended up with an .884 save percentage, 21-20-4 record, and a 3.63 goals against average.
Right. So I said Nedeljkovic was going to be the better goalie because what I had stated, I gave them nicknames. I said it was Askarov, the anointed one. So he will be. Right. But right now, still a little too young. Whereas you got Nedeljkovic, been there, done that in the NHL for a little bit here. So he was Nedeljkovic the wise. Right. So between the two, I felt that Nedeljkovic was going to have the better numbers. I think I might have agreed with you in terms of Askarov getting more starts, which does make sense to me. Right. They want to show that their trust is in him to grow, to be better, to be the number one eventually. Right. Nedeljkovic this season picked up, he had 40 games played, 34 of them were starts, which means 6 times he was called into the game where Askarov got pulled. So that's kind of another piece of the pie there in terms of Nedeljkovic maybe being the more reliable guy because he never got pulled. Askarov got pulled 6 times.
Well, I don't know. Is that right? Because they also had one start went to
Brossois. Laurent Brossois. Anyway, so yeah, his record was 18-14-4, which I believe points percentage wise is actually a little bit better. And his goals against average was a 2.87. Now, again, we already talked about this. A lot of these regular goalie stats are more team stats. But, I mean, over the course of the entire season, he had the same defense, the same forward core, the same everything else in front of both of these guys, mostly from one night to another. Obviously, somebody could have been injured or whatever. But for the most part, it's the same team in front of each one. I think I'm safe to say here that Nedeljkovic edges out Askarov this season as the better of the two goalies this season. Yes. Okay, good. That's it?
Yeah.
Good. Moving on. Best rookie. Now, this one was actually, you had said Askarov because he is still a rookie.
Yeah.
And that's how they voted it, actually.
Yeah. So the members of the media were asked to vote. We got to vote on this a week ago, I think. And Askarov won Rookie of the Year. I think Dickinson was second, right? I think they posted both. I think it was both Askarov followed by Dickinson.
Okay.
And which was actually our vote as well. We did not vote for Misa for that.
Yeah.
I think we gave him maybe third. But Yeah, Askarov ended up winning.
Yeah, so Aaron nailed that one. I picked Misa, mostly. I don't want to just pick the same guys every time, but Misa, I thought for sure he would get some playing time on and off at the beginning of the season, catch fire, and then play the rest of the games. And I figured he'd get closer to like 60 games. He didn't quite reach even 50. He was in the 40 game play.
45, but I think that's
Yeah.
because of the injury. I think if he wasn't injured, he probably would have hit 60 games,
Sure.
and he would have had more points and definitely been more in the conversation there.
Yeah, I also thought he'd probably be getting more minutes. I think, like I said, the average time on ice for him was somewhere around 12 minutes or so, and I feel like if he wasn't injured and he was getting more of those minutes, he probably would have ramped up a little bit quicker because he does have the toolkit. He's got everything that you want. It's not quite refined just yet. And he's out the right intentions. He's out there to game. He's out there to forecheck hard, to battle through checks. He's looking for guys. He's trying to score. He's doing everything that you want him to do. So again, big things I think coming for next season. But yes, in terms of best rookie, I would agree that it was Askarov. Even that voting aside, if we were to just kind of say, hey, who do you think by the end of the season here? Yes, absolutely Askarov. For a young guy like that to step in and play that many games and have that many starts, and the team did almost make playoffs. Yeah, he's a large part of that. Right. So, absolutely. I think he was certainly the best rookie this season, and it wasn't even really close.
No.
So, yeah. Moving on from that, we had another one that I think I added this one
I think you did
late in when we were first talking about doing these predictions, and I was excited that we had Revo on the team. So I said, how many PIMs do you think Revo was going to get? How many penalty minutes do you think Revo was going to get? And you know what? First, I mean, we've got that. You wrote 90 there.
I should have looked at what his career was, like what he did every year.
You can get as many penalty minutes as you might think.
No, he ended up with 37.
Yes.
And you had said 50.
I said 50.
So obviously closer.
Yeah.
I think if he been in the lineup a little bit more, he would have gotten to 50.
If he didn't break his finger and he played a couple more games, he probably would have got 2 more fights. That puts me at it puts him at 47 and I'm close to 50. Yeah. But yeah, I think 90 was a little ambitious.
A little. I just looked at his career numbers. I'm like, oh man, he hasn't hit like 100 or 90 minutes in like 10 years or something. So yeah, that was my bad for not doing my research.
But that was the point.
I think you threw that on last minute. I didn't have a chance to even look.
I didn't look at it either. I was just saying, what do you think?
Yeah.
Anyway, so beyond that, let's go ahead and look at some of the team predictions that we had.
Yeah. We wanted to know how many points in the standings the Sharks would have, and I ended up saying 78, and Paul said 75 because we were pretty much close to where we expected them to be, and so we kind of changed the numbers a little bit, just to be different.
I don't know what I was thinking.
You thought they were going to be higher.
No, yeah. So I was under the impression, that this team was going to make playoffs initially.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I was under the impression they were going to make playoffs. And I think what happened was I had that going into that show, that's what I thought was going to be the case. And when we actually did the show, it hit me, and I alluded to this during the show, it hit me, you know what? We have a lot of one-year contracts. We're probably going to be selling these guys off. The end of the season, we're actually not going to be here. We're going to tank because we're going to have all these guys that we've traded away. So let me revamp that. And that's apparent in the next stat, and we'll get that in a second. But I said 75, which is even lower than what you had initially said at 78. The 75 is not going to get you into playoffs, so that doesn't jive with what I was initially talking about. Was the Sharks are going to make playoffs, right?
Yeah,
which is what I've been saying pretty much the entire time.
It's funny if you go back to that episode, the predictions episode. We have a graphic from J Fresh Hockey, and I'm sure maybe we could post it again, but the experts, like it has a whole panel of people, what they predicted everyone in the standings to be, and the Sharks were dead last in everybody. I think one had picked about 75 points or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. There was one that was higher than the rest.
You know what team was higher? Way higher was Vancouver.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody picked Vancouver to have 90-something points. What did they end up with, 50-something?
Yeah, they were expecting a big bounce back from Vancouver.
Wow.
But Demko was not healthy, their goaltender, who is a very good goaltender, but he just had some major hip problems. And then Quinn Hughes got traded at some point. Sherwood got traded. Yeah. So it was just a complete teardown of this team.
So with the Sharks, we were fairly off, I would say, on points. But then what place were they going to be in? And then again, this caught me off guard when I went back and looked at it, because the entire time I've been saying no worse than 20th, right?
I think you were a little confused that day or something.
During the show, I said, no, they'll probably, you said 25th.
I was thinking bottom 10.
Right.
Right? And that's about 25th.
For some reason, I said 27th. I don't know why. Again, I think because in my head, I was like, oh, you know what? I have to change from what I said initially, which is no worse than 20th. They're going to make playoffs. I have to change that from that to, oh, yeah, we're probably going to be selling off all these 1-year UFAs, and we're probably going to be lower and lower. So we'll probably end up 27th, right? And then I started seeing how the Sharks were playing, and I changed it back. No, I drew the line and said, I'm going back with what I initially said. We're going to make playoffs. But during the predictions episode, apparently what I said was, we're going to have 75 points and end up 27th overall.
Well, Shang, if I knew that answer, then I wouldn't have. We would have started off better.
I don't know why I did that, but there you go. It's news to me. So they actually ended up in 24th. So congratulations, you are the closest.
Thank you.
So I don't know if that's considered going over, because it's 24 is actually whatever. Anyway, that was our predictions. Those are all things that we said. Now, I couldn't help but notice in the chat, the live chat, there were a couple that I wanted to pull out. I thought they were fun.
Okay.
And as much as we get this stuff wrong sometimes y'all get this stuff wrong too. A guy and his dogs said Leddy and Klingberg will both be gone by the deadline. He was very adamant about that. It's going to happen. Almost got Leddy, because he did go on waivers, right? But he came back and he ended up playing fairly well, right? And Klingberg, as much as everybody likes to harp on him, he actually had a fairly decent season by the numbers, as you had pointed out previously. So that was two guys that he was sure were gone, and they stuck around the entire year. They didn't even get moved for assets at the trade deadline.
I don't want to say that they weren't tried to get moved.
Sure, yeah.
I'm sure teams are just like, nah, we don't need your garbage. It's fine.
And then the fun one, which wasn't really a prediction, it was more of a jab, and I love it. Kellen Foster said,
"Oh, you don't have your jersey."
He bets that Reeves outscores Noah Gregor. Well, guess what? Noah Gregor in 37 games played had 4 goals and 5 assists for 9 points, and was a -10. Ryan Reeves had 59 games played, 3 goals, no assists for 3 points, and was a -12. So actually, Noah Gregor did have a better season than Ryan Reeves.
What was Noah Gregor's? I'm checking something real quick.
What? Florida Panthers he played for.
He almost outscored Jeff Skinner.
Really?
Jeff Skinner.
Oh, yeah.
6 goals and 7 assists for 13
Stop
points.
rubbing salt in the wound.
Just saying.
It's pretty bad.
I'm gonna pick you like a booger and flick you into the stands.
Will, animated Will, I'd like to see you try. Is he made out of construction paper? What is this? Anyway, okay, so now we're done with all the prediction stuff. I think the last little bit here is a lot of exit interviews. There's going to be a lot of videos that are coming here. So basically, Aaron, where do you want to start?
First, we're going to start with the team culture. Now, we put together a bunch of these exit interviews, kind of clipped out the best parts that we thought based on these kind of categories, if you will. So the first one's going to be about team culture. We're going to hear from a couple of the guys, Warsofsky, Grier, and a couple of the players, and it's going to be just back to back to back. So enjoy these and tell us what you think about the comments.
Meant a lot. You know, they gave me an opportunity to finish that contract and play another year at the age I'm at. Had a lot of fun. I've never been in a situation where, like this, where a team is kind of coming out of a rebuild, but I had a blast doing it. There's a lot of talent here, a lot of good young players, a lot of good veterans. It was a great season. It's not just one person. It's it's just everybody kind of buying into loving each other on and off the ice, and when you really like each other off the ice, it starts translating on the ice. When you have fun off the ice, you have fun on the ice. I think it takes 25 guys to kind of create that, and it takes coaching staff all the way up to GM to start that, and then obviously the players got to grab a hold of it. But it's not just one guy.
What's been the key to kind of bridge the gap between the teenagers and the guys like yourself?
Wow, yeah. dumbing it down a little bit. Stooping to their level. You know, I'm not as mature as you guys think I am, but I like to goof around a lot. So, you know, just kind of enjoying the stuff they enjoy and trying to get in on some of the stupid stuff they say. But yeah, I think you just have to, try and enjoy what they're doing.
There was no, like, it wasn't very divided. Like, all the guys hung out together. Our older guys, younger guys, everyone just kind of came together. We were a team, and no one looked at it as a guy being older than them. I think our young guys are, I think we like looking up to those guys and asking them questions, and but I think everyone's comfortable with each other and just talking to each other. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how old you are, where you come from, or as long as you're in that room, we're all gonna have each other's back, and we're all gonna be a team.
I think there's a big, when you get here, there's a big family aspect. I feel everyone, and I think it starts with, you know, Mikey, you know, it's been the equipment manager for 30 years now. Like, you have Rose, who's been here for 20 something years. You have Newfie, that's been here for, I think, 15 years. And when you have all those guys that have been around and they take so much pride into being part of the Sharks, so much pride of every day putting a shirt with a Sharks logo on it, it just brings a vibe. It brings a mentality that once you put the jersey on, you're part of the family. It's really the atmosphere that's here, and that's why I think Asky got emotional. And you know, at the end of your meetings, when you know, like Warzel was talking, he was getting emotional. And Hoots, we had a PK meeting, the last one, he was getting emotional, because I think it's just the family. The family values, it just once you put the Sharks jersey on, you're part of the family, and everyone is being treated equally, whether you're old, young, you know, you've been in the league for 10 years or 2 games, you're part of the family, and everyone's going to treat you properly. And I have nothing but good things to say about this place. I'm very grateful. Like you said, I came here after a tough year, tough season, and the second I showed up here, I felt part of the family, and I'm very grateful for all those people to have done that for me.
The team culture has really changed. It's something that we've talked about in the last 4 seasons maybe, about how the culture needs to change and how bad it was and how guys weren't sticking up for each other. They just didn't seem to care. They were playing individually and didn't care about the team as the Sharks. It was a big problem, a really big problem. Part of the reason why Warsofsky was brought in, and they just cleaned house and got rid of a lot of the coaching staff. So I feel like there was leaps and bounds going from what it used to be into what it is coming into right now. I mean, we just spent a lot of time earlier in the show talking about this, but just goes to show of all these players talking about how great it is now and how tight-knit of a group it is. It's amazing to see, and it's showing on the ice. It's clearly showing.
Yeah, you look at when Will Smith got injured, the first guy that jumped in there was your superstar 19-year-old in Macklin Celebrini, ready to, you know, kind of throw down a little bit with somebody. And these are the types of things you're expecting the more veteran guys, the fourth liners, right? You're expecting Ryan Reeves to drop the gloves. Maybe, you know, Stopchuk, Barclay Goodrow is going to do that too, right? But when it's a 19-year-old kid who is all skill and he's ready to go and show somebody else, hey, you don't mess with my guys, that says a lot about the culture that they've brewed there. So there was one case, I can't remember who it was, but Macklin got hit. Somebody got in the player's face that hit Macklin, and he ended up getting thrown in the box. And I was like, it's not really, all you're doing is showing them that you weren't able to do enough and you're going to give them a power play. But the intention was there. It was the right intention, right?
I'm totally fine.
Right. So the culture bred that, right? And that's what you want to see. You want to see guys that are sticking up for each other. You want that family atmosphere that we've been talking about pretty much the entire time when we talk about the culture that they have now. So all good things for that. And I can only expect, as I said earlier, that that's going to continue going forward because that core is staying the same. And Macklin, as the leader of this group, he's going to get the C next season.
Oh, absolutely.
Macklin, as the leader of this group, is going to push that same narrative throughout his tenure there as a Shark.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Team culture done. Let's move on. What's the next thing we want to talk about? The future of the team.
Yeah, we're going to hear from Grier and Warsofsky again, and a couple of more players about the future of the team and why it's looking good, if you will.
No, it's still a work in progress. I think we're still a long ways away from getting to where we want to go. And it's not just, being wild card 2 and losing in the first round. There's a bigger prize here that we're after. So we're kind of still in the baby steps of that. Hopefully, we're starting to come out of the rebuild and take positive steps forward. But, I think the ideal roster and roster makeup and things like that are nowhere complete to try and have the type of roster that can compete and try and win a Stanley Cup.
Look at the growth and the steps and where this team finished last year compared to this year. You eliminate, the beginning of the season, those 6 games, you just eliminate that right there, and we're in the playoffs. There's a couple other games where, we let slide. And that's part of, growing as an organization, is realizing, every point matters throughout the season. There's some games where we could have had, and, those points would have got us into the playoffs too. So, like I said, you tweak the lineup a little bit, which, a team that doesn't make the playoffs, there's always going to be some tweaking. But yeah, you do a little tweaking. This team is, sky's the limit.
We'll continue to get better, like we keep preaching, and the standing will keep rising, and that's what this is all about. That's why you create a culture, and you continue the build on to the future. So the standard is the standard, getting stronger, getting quicker. Again, another guy I think we'll see that look that I saw with Mac last year, with that mission look. I think that's what we'll see with Will come September.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Obviously, I don't know what's going to happen. That's a tough part about this sport, but it's also the beauty in the sport, right? It's a lot happens that, are surprising things, but, it's great things at the end of the day. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm excited for this organization. It's been a long time that we've had prospects and picks and guys coming in, but weren't quite ready to put a team together to make a run for playoffs and a Stanley Cup. But now you can see that those picks and those prospects and guys coming in are making a huge difference, and it's obvious, the guys who are, right. And so it's exciting for this organization, and it's they're being set up to be a part of this team, all these young guys, and this team is being set up to be good for a really long time. And so that's really, really cool, and it's exciting, and fans should be really excited about that. But no, yeah, it's for as long as I'm here, right? I'm nowhere else at the moment. I'm excited. I'm excited for what's coming.
Yeah, I think just kind of took, trust in the staff and, me being able to go out there and, kind of play my game. And I think, to be honest, no one's really seen the, even the real me yet. And I think next year's, a big year for me. And obviously this summer out of me is huge. So looking forward to both.
Really cool. I love listening to Mike Grier talk because he says so much. You have to really kind of listen to his words, and he alludes to a lot of things. And I don't know. I loved hearing about him. Reeves, obviously great, and Warsofsky as well. I really like what Warsofsky said about Will Smith. That gets me excited about. He sees it in him. He saw it with Mac. Now he sees it with Will going into next year. So I'm expecting big things out of this kid.
And that's me too. I mean, to be honest, I've been expecting big things out of Will, right? And maybe that's not fair because, he's still very young and he isn't Macklin Celebrini, right? And I get that. And I've never on this show said he needs to be what Macklin Celebrini is. But I've seen the skill that he has, and I've seen the places where maybe he could vastly improve. And to me, that the areas that I'm looking for didn't improve that much this season. If he sees the look in his eye in terms of, what the same thing that Mac had, if he sees that look in his eye and he's going to go and train harder in those areas that he needs to work on. If Will Smith goes and is working on his shooting, that's a problem to me. That's not where you need work. Your shot is fantastic. You don't need to work on that anymore. You need to work on the other aspects of the game that are going to help not just you be a better player, but your line be a better line, more effective. Even though it was very effective, you can be more effective than it already is. And that translates into your team being more successful. And at the end of the day, as they were saying, it's not about this season. We're looking ahead, right? There's a greater goal that's out there. Everybody should be working towards that greater goal. And for me, if Will Smith has that look in his eye, that's going to bode well for the team, because he should be the second best player on this team. And by the points he was, but he could be so much more than what he is right now. And I hope that this offseason brings that out of him. Again, I would love nothing more than to have nothing bad to say about Will Smith. And I hope that this coming season brings that.
I'd explain my shooting percentage to you, Paul, but I don't think the signal reaches all the way down there.
So again, he doesn't need to work on a shot. He needs to work on flicking more boogers, apparently. Anyway, happy with where they feel the future of the team is going. We're finally going in the right direction.
Yes.
With results behind it, not just going in the right direction with getting more and more assets, right?
And this team will go as Celebrini goes.
Yes.
Right. And here's some more clips on how great Celebrini is from many people who love talking about Celebrini as much as we do.
Yeah, Mac, I think he's he's a 19-year-old, right? So he's doing a lot of growing, and I think he's getting more and more comfortable in his own skin and in his place in this league and the place on the team. So, it's a lot of it off the ice is, I think he's being more willing to speak his mind, and but he's a great kid. He carries himself the right way, trains hard, practices hard, and is leading by example. And the season he had this year was unbelievable. Was more, went by far exceeded what I thought he might do in his second year. And I think if you look at, we didn't get in the playoffs, but if you look at the MVP award and what it actually means as the most valuable player to your team, I don't think there was anyone more valuable to their team than he was to ours. And that's nothing against the other guys who would probably be nominated or win it. 97 is maybe the best player to ever play this game. Kucherov's a Hall of Famer. Nate McKinnon is a special talent. He's probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame. But, I think what Mac did for us and the fan base and in the group here, I don't think there was anyone in the league that was more valuable to their team.
No, I mean, I don't think anyone had those expectations. But he certainly exceeded them, and he did a hell of a job this year of just individually and helping our group and dragging guys into it. And, that's who he is as a player, and he's just going to get better and better. And felt like every time we thought he was at his ceiling, he blew the ceiling right off. So, I had a good meeting with Mac in training camp, and I knew he was on a mission. I will say that there was a look on his face. He was ready to go. He had put the preparation and the work in the summer, and he got more and more comfortable as the season went on, it seemed.
Well, I mean, his leadership to me is on the ice. He plays the right way in all three zones. He plays harder than most players in this league, and for a player at his age, that's pretty rare. To me, his leadership starts on the ice, starts in practice, the way he practices. Staying out late shooting, being out there early, working on his thing. He's going to be a good leader in this league. I mean, I don't know what else he could possibly do. He's, we talked about before, his leadership on the ice, is, I've seen it before. And then I saw a guy named Sidney Crosby, number one. So it's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, I mean, the first year I got called up in Edmonton, I think that's the year that Connor got 150 points or something. So that's tough to beat. That's tough to beat from there. But if one guy can do it, it could be Mac. And for him, at 19 to get 115 points and to beat Jumbo Joe's record, and to do it on a team that didn't even make playoffs. So it's going to be exciting to see the next few years, because this team is going to be a playoff team, and the boat has turned around, and he's one of the main reasons why. And again, at 19 years old, everything he's achieved, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's with this team, and how he is off the ice as well. That a good heart, a good person. I'm very excited to see what's going to be next for him. But sky's the limit, and there's going to be many, many more records being broken from him.
I love that Grier talks about the Hart Trophy specifically, kind of going, this guy should win the Hart if you look at what it's actually about. And we tend to agree. Now, we did build, and we talked about this last week, a Hart Trophy and other trophy kind of metric system that you can play around with. There's some sliders and stuff, and that's on our website, so you can go to our website and check that out. But I also like Warsofsky saying, I thought there was a ceiling, and he just blew the ceiling off. That's kind of what I said earlier, right? What is this? Are we at his floor right now? I don't think this is his ceiling. So I think he has more to give, which is weird to say to a guy who just scored 115 points as a 19-year-old.
Yeah, it's absolutely unreal what he's doing and what he's done. And as we've said many times, if you just take a look at what the Hart really represents, the Hart represents how valuable that player is to his team, not who's the most valuable player in the league, right? And if you look at the distance between him and whoever is next best on the team, that gap is astronomical between him and Will Smith. 115 points, 59 points. That gap is huge. And I don't think you're going to see that gap with a lot of these other guys in terms of who's the second best player on the team. And I said this last episode, if you take Macklin off of this team, we're probably picking second overall, right? If you take McDavid off of the Edmonton Oilers, yeah, they're a lot worse team, but they're not trash. They're not that bad, right? If you take Kucherov off of the Lightning, yeah, it's a big hit offensively, big time. No one's saying that it wouldn't be, but that's still a really good team. You've got other players on that team that keep that team afloat, right? The Sharks, they have a lot of good young talent, but without Macklin, we simply aren't going to be getting wins, period. And to me, that is the difference between what some people are going to vote for and what they ought to vote for. So I 100% agree with him there. I just don't think that there was anybody that was more valuable to their team by comparison to everybody else on that roster than Macklin Celebrini was to the San Jose Sharks.
Now, the Sharks do have a lot of players that are going to be coming back and a lot of players that are not going to be coming back. So we do have some clips here talking about that specifically, about players wanting to come back. There's some players that are up for contracts. Celebrini actually up for his extension starting on July 1st, as is Will Smith and Askarov, I think are the three. And Mukmadulin, I guess, because he's an RFA.
We do have a lot of cap space.
We do.
Don't forget, Carey Price's contract comes off as well. So that's an extra $10 million that we didn't have this season to spend. So
yes,
there's that too.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the cap.
Not at all.
But here are some of the players talking about them coming back and possibly coming back, I should say. Here you go.
I'm just open to every possibility. There's nothing really that goes into it. I think it goes hand in hand with me. Just I want to commit to this team and being here, and I love it here. So I think I'm just open to whatever happens.
Well, I've made it clear that this is where I want to be first. 1,000 games will be nice, but with a little bit of tweaking, I think this is a Stanley Cup team as well. I would rather get the Stanley Cup. I think every kid grows up looking for a Stanley Cup before they even think about 1,000 games. To get both would be even better. Yeah, like I said, I love my time here. I hope it works out to come back. Yeah, I guess we'll find out soon.
I don't know if he was like the dad, the fun uncle, or like the big brother. He was kind of like everything, you know. It was just yeah, he's the guy that you go to for anything you need, any issues, anything fun you want to say. And like, he's just the guy that he does it all. And whether it's him taking care of a dinner, you know, making sure everyone is together, or organizing a golf event, I don't know. He's the guy. He's Revo, and big bear, you know, everyone. I don't know. He's just yeah, he means a lot to this team. And for him to get to 1,000 games, I mean, it would be crazy for him. Like, I really, really hope that he gets to it, and he deserves it. And I think that the energy he brought on the ice, the physicality he brought on the ice, the calm he brought on the bench, he had so many roles for us. And for him to go down like that at the end of the season was tough to see. It was tough for him, tough for his family. But I really hope that he's back with us, because he brings a lot on the ice. Even though he doesn't play the most minutes, he brings something. When he's in the lineup, other teams know it, and it sucks. It sucks to play against him. It's not fun. So hopefully we both re-sign here so we can stay on the same team, because it was definitely a lot of fun to be on the same team as him.
Hopefully it continues, but what has this 7 years in San Jose meant to you?
I mean, so much. You know, I remember sitting on the beach at the cottage up north in Toronto. I was talking to my cousin Anthony. I was like, all I want to do is I want to play in the NHL. I just want to play one game in the NHL. That's it. If I play one game, I'm so forever grateful. That's it. And then that year, signing a contract, entry-level contract, coming into camp, I had no idea if I would make the team. I remember Pete DeBoer calling me in and giving me saying, you know, exactly the role that I should play this year, and I should give myself a chance to make it. And I did that, and he gave me an opportunity, and I played my first game. And then after that, it was, okay, now I want to play 2 games, and then 3 games. And then after that, halfway through the season, okay, I got to stay here. I got to stay up all year. And then the next year, it's like, okay, now I got to make the team again, because I still didn't feel as solidified. And every year I go in with the mentality that I haven't made the team, because I always think back to that moment when I'm sitting on the beach. I want to play my first game, and now I'm here. I played over 400 games and played 7 years here, and it's crazy how time flies by. So I'm so grateful for the Sharks organization for giving me this opportunity. Because as much as I have other goals now, my dream was to play one game, and the Sharks gave me that opportunity. You know, so I have a lot of people to thank. I mean, the list goes on. Doug Wilson and his team drafting me and giving me an opportunity here. You know, the coaches I've had along the way, Pete DeBoer, Bob Bugner, you know, David Quinn, and obviously Warsaw right now. I've had a lot of assistant coaches, great assistant coaches that I've, you know, built great relationships with. So, and obviously Mike Grier for giving me, you know, another 4 years to extend my stay here. So I have so many people to thank. I mean, I'm missing a million people in this organization. It goes on and on. It builds so many great relationships, but you know, we're running out of time in this interview, and I'll see them today and I'll give them my personal thanks. But like, yeah, it's whatever happens. I don't know. I hope I'm back, but it's been an extraordinary time here, and I'm so grateful for everybody. It's an extremely classy place here, and yeah, I've been living my dream for 7 years, so I'm so grateful.
Ryan Reeves saying that he wants to come back and he wants to win a Stanley Cup. If he came back, he'd probably be coming back for a year. Mm-hmm. So he's under the impression that this team is going to barely miss playoffs this season and be cup bound next.
I mean, he did say earlier that, you know, a few tweaks in this team is there. So yeah, I don't want to disagree. I don't think they'll be a cup contender next year, but I'm expecting playoffs.
if he honestly believes that, then that's really exciting for Sharks fans.
Yeah.
Right now, and I wouldn't want to disagree with him. You know what I mean?
I mean, we kind of, I don't want to say we doubted Celebrini, but we doubted the greatness of Celebrini going into this season.
I think
80 points.
We undersold what we thought he would be able to accomplish.
Yes.
Right? We knew he was going to be an extreme talent. We just didn't realize how extreme. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, that to me is amazing. Hearing from Ryan Reeves saying that he wants to come back because he wants a Stanley Cup, right? So we'll see how next season goes. Maybe we'll have to work that into our predictions.
Yeah, right.
In any case.
All right, up next we have the defensive identity and the goals against, which we had talked about earlier in the show, how bad it was. Now, this is Grier and Warsofsky talking about it more specifically and what they want to do to fix that going into next season. So good insight here of what they're kind of thinking and planning on doing.
I mean, it's probably a little bit of everything. I think we need to be able to move the puck out our end a little bit better, and we need to be harder around our net, and we need to be able to kill more plays in the D zone. So it's probably a little bit of everything. Some, a little bit of stiffness back there to defend hard when you do have those shifts where you're boxed and you're in, and then at the same time when teams dump pucks in, we got to be able to break pucks out a little bit cleaner and, kind of get away from so many rims and things like that. If we can, be a little cleaner, get the puck up in our forwards' hands a little bit cleaner, we'll be better off for that. So, so that's it. I think we need a little bit of everything, and that's probably the case on most teams when you're, I don't know what we ended up, probably bottom 5 in goals against. So, so we'll see. So guys, we'll look for some guys in free agency, the trade market, and then we got, a couple of young guys down there in the Kudo. Cags came up and did a good job when he was up. Maybe showed that, maybe he should be an option for one of the power plays if he earns it. And then, we got Eric Polkamp coming in. We'll see what he looks like. Nolan Allen has been good for us down there too. So we'll kind of, we won't leave any stone unturned trying to improve things back there.
Yeah, that'll be the first thing I'll dive into is we got to keep the puck out of our net. That's for sure. We'll look back and we'll look at all the goals against, and we'll look at whether that's penalty kill, shorthanded goals, any situation. We'll look at it and we'll make some changes that need to be made. But that will be step number 1 is keeping the puck out of our net, and step number 2 is our mindset to start the season is to be we're going out there to win games and get going and not just win 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row. Really string them together. I don't know if there's we could look back at everything you do in life and regrets and look at things you could do differently. We felt like we did a really good job preparing the group, for those moments. Unfortunately, that type of hockey it's tough, and as much as we tell them until we're blue in the face, until you experience it and get punched in the face with it and go through it and fail from it, it's hard to learn from that. And we're asking 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old kids that have never been through it. And this day and age, they think they know everything. They don't sometimes. So we were just trying to continue to push the group and have an understanding of how difficult it is. But also you have to have a feel of, we can't stress them out. We can't go in there and stress them out of how hard it's going to be, how difficult it's going to be. If you make one mistake here, the game's over. That's impossible. You can't do that to a young kid. So, I thought we did a really good job, our staff, and having a feel for those situations again. And I think hopefully we look back a year from now and we're playing today. So, and we've learned from it. You either learn, when you fail and you get better and you move on.
I think a lot of that comes in our maturity as a hockey team. I think down the stretch we learned a lot about puck play and puck management, playing the right way later in the season when you might not have your legs and, the game might not be going your way, which is the case in a lot of hockey games. You're just not going to have it. or, you know, sometimes teams are just going to be hounding on you in the first period and you got to manage the game. You know, in moments like that, just playing simple, not trying to stretch the game too much, not trying to push for offense too much. You know, I think obviously the offensive side is the glory. You know, you scoring the goals is the fun part. But I think we learned this year as the year went on, especially later in the season, that when we play good defense and we focus on locking down our end, we get more odd man rushes. We get more chances on the other end of the ice. So yeah, I think, you know, collectively as a group, we just have to have that mindset and just, you know, look to the guy next to us and say, you know, we're going to defend hard. That's our main priority, is keeping the puck out of our net. The offense will kind of come. We'll let the offense come to us. And I think, you know, the last game of the season, you know, I thought we defended hard. The offense came to us, right? Like, how often do we score that many goals in a game, right? I don't think we were pushing for anything. It's just, you know, it comes. Obviously, that's the last game of the season. You want to look to, you know, games where obviously it was more meaningful on both sides, right? We were both out of it in that game, but like I said, yeah, it's just, I think it's just a collective mentality of, you know, playing the right way, and just bigger picture, you know, thinking like good defense. That's how playoffs are played, you know, tight defensively, and it'll lead to good chances on the other side.
Again, I love listening to Grier because he says a lot. He talks a little slower, but you get a lot out of what he's saying. And I think he tips his hat a little too much sometimes, but he says what he's going to do. And I feel like he sticks to it more often than not. So he's going to be overhauling the defense, and Warsofsky in return is going to be working on defense and keeping the puck out of the net. So we looked at those stats earlier about the even strength goals against and how that needs to get changed. And I think that's what they're going to focus on along with the PK.
Yeah, I mean, we're a fan show and sometimes we get things wrong, but this, I think, is something that's, I think most fans hit right on the head. Is the biggest problem is defense, keeping the puck out of the net. And that is going to be the main focus next season. Again, I talked about the guys that they're going to bring in on the blue line. This is going to be the main focus, not just getting a guy, a warm body. They're going to have players that are going to lock it down in terms of not allowing those chances, right? And so that's going to do pretty much everything that we want from the Sharks going forward, is we want them to be exactly what they were, just better defensively, right?
Yeah.
And so that's their priority, both the GM and the coach, who everybody wants fired, both of them, right? Both of them are focused in on the biggest gaping hole on this team. So maybe Ryan Reeves is right about maybe next season us being in that conversation, because if you shore that up, I'm telling you, good defense leads to good offense, man. So
John Butchergross of ESPN did say, if this team learns how to defend,
That's right.
watch out.
that's right.
And he's not wrong, because the offense is not the problem.
Well, they don't need to learn how to defend so much as they need to bring in some guys that can defend it, and I'm confident they will go ahead and do just that.
Yes, and now going back to what you just said about Warsofsky as a coach, here are some questions and answers, I guess, of Warsofsky's growth as a coach. We're going to hear from Warsofsky and Grier, and yeah, this is pretty cool.
I think I've calmed down a little bit with the refs. That's a big one. You know, I think, again, I always, you know, sometimes what I think is important for me isn't always what's important for the group. And I think that's something that I've learned.
Yeah, I think, you know, the coaching staff got a lot out of the group, and, you know, they did a good job, I think. You know, I think he's still learning and growing as a coach, and I think we did a good job, like I said, to kind of get the group and get them to buy in and get them to battle hard every night. I think it was a resilient group. I think, you know, from the way we started the season, not winning till our 7th game, till, you know, the road trip before the Olympic break, and then our home stand where, you know, we lost a few games and everyone kept saying we're down and out. And, you know, and it looked that way, even watching from above. These, you know, so maybe these guys are running out of steam, but then the next thing you know, they put a couple wins together and they battle back. So it's a credit to him and to the players with, you know, how resilient they were throughout the year. I mean, I think everyone's got to improve. I can improve, the players, coaches. So, you know, I think it's all about growing and evolving, and I'm sure there's things he wants to be better at next year, but I think that's probably more of a conversation for him and I to have. But yeah, I think he's a really good young coach in this league, and he's learning the league and learning how to coach at the highest level, and he's done a good job.
I think it's safe to say that Warsofsky's
Job.
coaching job is fine and secure, at least through next season. I don't think Grier would make any kind of hasty moves here. I know a lot of fans out there that want, the big sexy name that's out there as doesn't have a team right now and wants to bring in a big name player. A lot of people wanted Tortorella to come in, which I think is silly, and some other big names. Bruce Cassidy was another one that's been thrown out there. It's like, come on, man. Warsofsky's doing a great job. He just had this huge turnaround, and they're on the up and up.
Yeah, absolutely. And a quote that got me was sometimes what I think is important for me isn't always what's important for the group. And that came from Warsofsky. And I kind of wish he elaborated on that a little bit, because that's very interesting to me. And I think that is something that a lot of coaches get kind of so hyper focused on, is it's my way, and my way is the right way. And I think a lot of coaches lack the ability to kind of transform their style or transform kind of what they feel is going to work, instead of just hammering away at the exact same thing over and over again. And I feel like John Tortorella is that guy that you block shots. I don't care how many goals. Ovechkin, block shots, right? Right. Mishkov, block shots.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, right? You could be the biggest stud, star, offensive talent in the league. He's going to ask you to block shots. And maybe that doesn't work for everybody, right? So I think it's the mark of a good coach to be able to say, hey, this is where I can grow. Because a lot of coaches get it stuck in their head, it's my way or the highway, and when it doesn't work, well, it's because everybody else was wrong. When a lot of times it's them. It's their own ability to change with the changing, either the roster is changing or the culture or the way the game is played, and to kind of morph into something that's going to work better for the group and for your team. And so I can appreciate that, where he says it's what's important to me isn't always what's important to the group. And it shows that there's some room for him to kind of branch out from his own way of doing things, right? I just think that's the mark of a good coach.
Yeah, imagine like you want to have a great power play, but you just don't have a great power play quarterback on the back end. Well, how are you going to have your plan of having this great power play? It's not going to work. So you kind of have to adapt and change your ways, and not try and keep hammering it over and over and over and doing this thing. But also adapting to what other teams are doing, and being able to change your strategies at some point. So yeah, I think it's a growth thing for him, and self-awareness for him to realize that.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I really like that quote, and I wish I had more from that. But I agree with you. It's the mark of a coach that's still growing in this league. And another thing that's still growing is the fan base at SAP Center. It was so nice to see all the fans showing back up, and we heard from a lot of the players saying that it was just an awesome atmosphere, back to the good old days.
Players, coaches, all kinds of people in post-game interviews, not on the Sharks, commenting about how loud it was and how great it is to have it back.
And so we're going to hear from some of these the players now talking about just that. So let's go ahead and roll this, talking about the fans coming back to SAP Center.
I mean, our fans are awesome. I mean, you saw it there. They sold out the building a couple times in a row, and then we had great crowds the rest of the year, and they're starting to come back, which is what we want. And I mean, we're going to keep trying to win some games and push this thing in the right direction. Hopefully, they keep coming.
Pittsburgh game, obviously, it's probably one game that sticks out, that comeback. But it was a collection of games, and obviously the Dallas win at home. We were down 4-2 going, in the third period, came back and won in overtime. That was when I felt the Shark Tank back. The thing, it was as loud as I've ever heard it. But you can feel the energy in the building. You can feel it around the community. People are excited about the future, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was great. I think, the fans have been very patient here over these 4 years. They supported us, and there was a lot of tough hockey games to watch those first 3 years. So it's a great hockey market, great fan base here, and it's great to see the tank kind of rocking again and filled up and some excitement in the building. So credit to the group for doing that, but more importantly, credit to the fans for sticking by us and supporting us through some tough times.
I've said this before. It was awesome this year. It was an incredible experience. I'm so grateful for the fans here. Sharks fans have been unbelievable over the years that I've been here. And I've said this before, but I think that it says a lot about a fan base and how much they respect their team and how much they show up is when they show up in the hard times. And obviously this year was a good year and it was a packed house, and we're grateful for that. But I'm extremely grateful for the ones who were sticking with me when it wasn't too pretty. 6-7 years. The last few years. That's when it hits home for sure. And you realize how great this fan base is, and so thank you, Sharks fans, for everything, and especially this year, and keep it coming because there's a lot of good years ahead for this group.
SAP is back. I know there was a couple games I went to this season, and we are fortunate enough to know what it was, right? There's a lot of new fans out there that don't know what it was like during the heyday of the Sharks, and even before the Thornton era when it was as loud as it was. I specifically remember the games against Dallas when Belfour played. After Belfour played for the Sharks and then left for Dallas because he wanted a cup-winning team. That stung to Sharks fans in the mid to late 90s. Whenever the Sharks scored on Dallas, the entire crowd would chant Belfour for a good couple of minutes. And it was deafening. It was so great. Anyway, SAP Center, built different than other arenas. It is extremely loud. I always thought it was kind of people blowing smoke about it, like, trying to make it sound better than it was. But no, like, it is consistently much louder than other arenas when it is as exciting as it is and loud. Patrick Waugh, a couple weeks ago, before he got fired from the Islanders, mentioned it specifically of how loud it was. And he was trying to tiptoe around it, trying to be nice, not trying to be mean, being like, yeah, it's been dead for years. But he was like, yeah, it's really nice to hear how loud it was again. It was very exciting and that atmosphere.
Yeah, it took him back to his heyday when he played and he played in that building and was getting yelled at and everything else, right? And yes, we do know what it sounds like when it's loud in there. And I was there for probably the loudest the tank maybe has ever been. And if you know what I'm talking about, the playoffs when we had the 4-goal comeback, the Game 7 against Vegas, I was sitting right there, off the Fleury's right. Like if he turned and looked to the right, I was sitting right there. So there's that episode that we did, and Super Key Grip Joe was helping us out that night, and you guys were talking, and I came in, my voice was gone.
Yeah.
I was screaming at the top of my lungs. I was hugging people I didn't even know. I mean, honestly, it was absolutely bonkers that night, and I am so looking forward to the tank getting back to that. And that is the loudest again that I've ever heard it. And I think that this team and the makeup that they have and the superstar that they have, the young budding star in Macklin Celebrini and all the other young guys that he's dragging along with them, they have the ability to make that tank that loud again by bringing a cup to San Jose, not just by having some miraculous comeback and then getting bounced. These guys could go all the way. There is so much solid young talent there. And if you are a Sharks fan right now, or you have been for a long time, it's coming. It's coming because these guys, I'm telling you, man, I'm so confident. These guys are going to be so good in the next decade of Sharks hockey. It's a great time to jump back into the tank and get that place rocking again.
The San Jose Sharks will be the team of the 2030s,
yes,
which is not that far away, and we're seeing glimpses of it now. Very exciting.
It might be the team of the late 2020s.
Sure. Yeah.
Going into the 2030s.
I'm just saying there will be that dynasty
yeah.
of the 2030s where they're going to be consistent. Kind of like how the Colorado Avalanche of the West in the last 10 years kind of, and Tampa Bay in the East for the last 10 years. They're just constantly going deep in the playoffs. That's going to be the Sharks in the 2030s.
I'm extremely excited for the future of this franchise. And I'm just, again, so grateful to our Sharks friends and family, everybody who's tuned in and watched us over the past, 8 seasons that we've had. It's been a long, hard, arduous road. The first couple seasons were okay. Everything in between up until now has sucked. But we've been here for you and you've been here for us. And we appreciate you guys in all the lives, being in the comments, feeding us things to talk about during a live show or whatever. And we'll continue to do this for you guys because, again, we just love having the conversation. If you are not subscribed, I don't know why. You need to hit the button already. So just tap that. It's all good. Nothing's going to blow up in your face. If you enjoyed the stream, hit the like button. Yes, of course. Thank you so much for that support. There's other ways you can support the show as well. Again, you can go to thefinfactor.com as he just put on the screen there. Check out any of the merch that we have for sale. You can also do for this one at least, a super thanks, which is a way of kind of tipping, which is nice, and we appreciate that, of course. Also, Venmo at the Fin Factor is another great way to go ahead and support the show. Lastly, there is the membership, which Aaron is an expert on and is going to explain in great detail.
Click join. It's $2.99 a month, and it's so simple to just click the join button. That's it.
It's click join. Yeah, it's just like the subscribe button, only you donate $2.99 a month, which helps us out, and we appreciate that.
Done.
I'm gonna pick you like a hunter.
Cup of coffee costs more.
Yeah, it does.
Than joining.
Way more.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that is, I guess, a wrap on season number 8. In terms of the regular season, at least. I don't know. We're going to do some more stuff, though. Why don't we go ahead and jump into that real quick?
Sure.
What can they expect from us during this off season since there is no hockey?
We will have some interviews lined up and kind of spread out, I think, a little bit over the off season. We are still going to be doing a members only episode. So if you would like your last chance to join as a member and get in on that, it will be a members only episode where we are going to be giving away lots of stuff. We're going to be opening a box of, I think it's Upper Deck cards from last season where it was Will Smith and Celebrini's rookie season. And any of the cards that go in there, we're going to give away as well. And anyone who is a member, we kind of spin the wheel and we'll put the item up first, then we spin the wheel to see who's going to get it. And everyone's going to get something, and then we get those mailed out. And if you are a member and you have not sent us your address, please do so. And you can send that at thefinfactor@gmail.com so that we have your address on file, and we will be able to actually send you your winnable items. So we are expecting to do that maybe in the next week here. Probably, I'm hoping by the end of the month, by the end of April, that we do that episode. We got to kind of find time with the three of us to get it going. But yeah, it's fun. And we also do a fantasy hockey league. Oh, the trophy's not here. I'm getting it engraved. The winner gets their name engraved on the cup. I forgot it at home. I was like, oh, it's right here. It's usually on top of this TV right here on the set. And it is currently getting hand stamps by me. I just forgot to do it and bring it. And the winner gets their name on there. It is if you're interested, let me know. Also in an email, you can hit us up at thefinfactor@gmail.com. That will be obviously for next season. We always seem to have some openings, 1 or 2 at least every year, but it's a good group of people, and it's a lot of fun. And it's now no longer a keeper league; it's just a single season league, a redraft league, if you will.
The imaginary trophy for the imaginary league. There you go.
This is how many times I've won it.
Get on with it. Get on with it.
Get on with it.
Get on with it. Yes.
Yes, get on with it.
And with that, we will get on with it.
Get on with it.
Okay, Jumbo God. Guys, once again, thank you so much for all of your support this season. We saw a huge jump with memberships and everything, and it just shows how much you guys enjoy the show, and it helps keep us going. So again, we thank you guys for all of your support. Last time for this season for super producer Jason.
Oh boy.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
And we will see you guys
when we see you.
Whenever we see you. That was way less dramatic than it should have been. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, check out our other content, especially interviews. You can interact with us directly through social media at The Fin Factor and on Instagram at Fin Factor. And don't forget to join our live streams on YouTube.
Visit our website at thefinfactor.com, where you'll find all of our episodes as videos or podcasts. You'll also find our exclusive merchandise to help support our show.